Apocalypse. I can steal superpowers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201, Suzaku. Sir, the guest said. The waitress never expected that when GLUO got serious, he would be so scary. After that bloody killing, GLUO had a murderous aura. It was not visible at ordinary times, but when his mood changed, he immediately became terrifying. Who is it? GLUO ignored the waitress's words. He slowly narrowed his eyes, his gaze as sharp as a knife. As an ordinary waitress, she had never seen such a scene. She was frightened and took a few steps back, looking like she was about to cry. "It's me." In the tense atmosphere, Nan's voice suddenly came from outside the door, and then she pushed the door and walked into the room. Facing GLUO's surprised look, she smiled and blinked. "Don't think too much. This meal was invited by a cousin from a distant place. She just came back from abroad and stayed at this hotel. I happened to see you, and my cousin said she would treat you to a meal. So that's how it is." I thought too much. GLUO really didn't expect Nan to appear here. Although he didn't have any thoughts about Nan, the two of them were friends after all, and there was no need to be too distant. GLUO, don't be scared. I'll introduce my cousin to you later. And Nan was obviously afraid that GLUO would be rude, so she came to remind GLUO first. Looking at Nan's confident expression, GLUO was a little curious about what Nan's cousin looked like. She was so confident. "Shy ran here secretly. Wait a minute." Nan waved her hand and trotted away. GLUO sat back in the chair. Yeezy sat next to him and was eating heartily. "Good guy. This guy is really bold. She is not afraid of poison." GLUO was not hungry at first, but seeing the huge table of food in front of him, since others paid a lot of money for it, his mentality changed and his appetite came. Eating and drinking for free, it was really so happy. GLUO didn't like to pretend, so he picked up the chopsticks and started eating, but GLUO was still very careful about his manners and was not so anxious. Although he didn't know who Nan's cousin was, she must be an extraordinary person to be able to treat such a table of food. Under normal circumstances, GLUO should not move his chopsticks and wait for others to come, but the other party arranged all this quietly. GLUO felt that he couldn't spoil her and had to let her eat what others had eaten. Knock knock knock. At this time, the door of the box was suddenly knocked. GLUO and Yeezy stopped eating chopsticks. They turned their heads and saw Nan pushing the door and walking in, and then a girl of unclear age walked in. The girl's temperament was quite mature, but from the appearance, she looked only 18 or 19 years old. The girl has a slender and well-proportioned figure, soft eyebrows that are slightly slender, and her jade-like facial features give people a sense of heroism and charm. The most memorable thing is that the girl has a pair of golden pupils. The clear color reminds people of the sea surface under the setting sun, as if the golden brilliance has broken into a pool. The girl's hair color is a pure white, tied into a neat side ponytail, and the blue hairband is tied into a bow, with 3 pink peach blossoms hanging on it, which looks very cute. The girl's single ponytail hanging on the right side is long enough to cover her waist, and the end of her long hair is in a big wavy curl. The shorter hair between the side ponytails is also combed together, hanging from the right shoulder socket to the chest. The girl's hair on the left side is slightly shorter, just above the collarbone, and the end is tied with a Chinese knot-style hairband, hanging quietly beside her shoulder and neck. "Hello, Nan's friend. You can just call me Suzaku." "Hello, my name is GLUO, and this is my friend, Yeezy." GLUO stood up to greet Nan's cousin. For some reason, GLUO felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity from this girl. However, this familiar feeling was very ethereal, and there was a great sense of illusion. GLUO did not show any abnormality, and introduced himself properly. Originally, GLUO did not want to introduce Yeezy, and it would be better for her to introduce herself, but GLUO did not expect that when Yeezy saw this Suzaku, her eyes widened. This was the first time GLUO saw Yeezy showing a surprised expression. To be honest, it was quite interesting. However, it was obvious that Annan's distant cousin, who could make Yuzi show such an expression, was not an ordinary person. Moreover, the name Suzaku was known to be just a code name, and she did not even dare to say her real name, which was really suspicious. Don't be polite, sit down and talk. Yes. GLUO didn't feel any hostility from this Suzaku. He sat very steadily. On the contrary, Yuzi sat on the stool with a somewhat stiff expression. When I was 14, I went abroad and stayed abroad for a full 10 years. Now I have nothing to do, and I can finally come back to see it. Things have changed. Suzaku didn't care about revealing her age. To be honest, if she didn't have to lie to him, GLUO couldn't believe it. Annan, this cousin, really looks like she hasn't grown up. Except for her more mature temperament, she is exactly the same as a girl of 18 or 19. It's not that she dresses up deliberately, but she has not changed at all. At the age of 24, she looks so young. Yuzi knows her, and she still has that expression. She went abroad at the age of 14, and dared to come back at the age of 24, when she had nothing to do. With so much information gathered together, GLUO dared to be sure that this Suzaku was definitely an evolver. 10 years is indeed a long time. But it's good to be back. Changlin City has indeed changed a lot, but people are not the only thing. It depends on their hearts. GLUO maintained a normal attitude of communication. Yuzi sat quietly beside him at this time, like a puppet. Annan did not interrupt, just watched and listened. You are right, it is true. This city is built by people after all. If people's hearts do not change, the city will be quiet and peaceful. But if people's hearts change, then steel and fire are not far away. Suzaku obviously had something to say. GLUO vaguely felt something, but he did not intervene, and just pretended not to understand. Facing GLUO's silence, Suzaku did not care. She smiled and shook her head, reached into her pocket, and took out 2 exquisite small wooden boxes. You are all Annan's friends. This is the first time we meet. I don't have a very good gift. I will give you this. Although Suzaku said it was a gift, her attitude could not be refused. Before she finished speaking, she had pushed the box in front of GLUO, and G had to nod in agreement. Thank you then. GLUO picked up the small square box, which was as big as his palm, and put it in his pocket without even looking at it. You're welcome. The girl seemed very satisfied that GLUO put away the gift. She smiled and glanced at Yuzi. The girl, who was about to refuse, nodded immediately. Chapter 202, Fragments of Illusion. After Yuzi and GLUO accepted the gifts, the atmosphere between the 4 of them eased. GLUO then brought up a topic, and talked about a few interesting things. They were able to chat with each other normally. Although Annan's cousin's identity was a bit mysterious, she was not a pretentious person. Instead, she was very funny. GLUO gradually let down his guard, and Yuzi was also less nervous. At this point, they finally got to know each other. Then everyone started to eat officially. Although Yuzi still ate a lot, she had restrained herself a lot compared to the beginning. After the meal, Annan and Suzaku did not stay for long. They chatted for a few more words, and then said goodbye and left. Finally leaving, Yuzi leaned back in the chair, showing a relieved expression. It was the first time GLUO saw her expression like this, and he became more curious about Annan's cousin. Who is she? Why are you so nervous? Asked the captain. Yuzi glanced at GLUO, paused for a moment, and finally shook her head. Okay. GLUO hadn't intended to get any useful confidence from Yuzi. She wasn't keeping secrets, she was stubborn. However, changing the topic away from Annan's cousin, GLUO was very curious about the gift she gave him, but before he could open the box, Yuzi took out her box first. In the gift box made of solid wood, a ruby pendant sparkled and sparkled, and it was obvious that it was very valuable. What a big deal. GLUO opened his box with some anticipation, and found that there was a black fragment inside. The material of the fragment was neither gold nor jade, but it felt a little warm to the touch. From the fracture, it seemed to be the result of collapse. As for the original shape, GLUO couldn't tell. What is this? Yuzi just took a look at her pendant, and put it away directly. She was curious about the fragment in GLUO's hand. She stretched out her hand, and made a gesture, to pick up the fragment from GLUO's hand. But Yeezy didn't touch the fragment at all. She stopped directly above Gluo's palm, then made a gesture of holding something, and moved it to her eyes to take a look. What is it? Obsidian. Yeezy seemed to be possessed. She had nothing in her hand, but she looked at it very seriously, staring at the air for a long time, and finally shook her head, and made a gesture, to put it back in Gluo's palm. It's probably just a souvenir, useless. Yeah, I feel the same way. Gluo held the fragment in his hand, his heart beating loudly. He was not a fool, and he could see the strangeness of this fragment clearly. Although he didn't know its ability and function, the fact that it didn't even touch an evolver directly showed that this fragment was very extraordinary. But why would Anand's cousin give him this? Gluo considered several possibilities, but he quickly denied them. Now he didn't know what the other party wanted, and it was useless to think about it. It was better to take it one step at a time. Gluo stopped thinking about it and planned to put the fragment in his pocket, but what Gluo didn't expect was that as soon as he thought of putting away the fragment, the black fragment melted directly into his right palm. Gluo was shocked by this situation. He thought he was tricked. As a result, he thought about it, and the fragment appeared in his palm again, exactly the same as before. Is it so advanced? Gluo tried to put it away again. Sure enough, the black fragment immediately turned into a dark mist and entered his palm. Right in the palm of his hand, Gluo could clearly feel the existence of the fragment and could take it out at any time. This is really magical. Gluo tried several times in a row and finally confirmed that it was harmless. Then he let it stay in his right hand. To be honest, Gluo couldn't tell why. He always felt that this fragment was very familiar. It was the kind of thing that was originally his and should have been like this. It's just that he lost it. Now, after a long time, he finally got it back. It feels very reassuring. From beginning to end, Yeezy was sitting next to Gluo, but she didn't notice Gluo's actions at all. It was as if there was nothing that needed her attention. Yeezy completely ignored it. Gluo, wait here for a moment. I'm going to report to the captain. Yeezy hesitated for a moment, but decided to report to Kichudi in person. There were too many evolvers in the hotel now, and it was very likely that someone among them could eavesdrop on their communications. Okay, go ahead. Gluo was so happy when he heard that Yeezy was leaving, but on the surface, Gluo certainly wouldn't show any flaws. Yeezy looked at Gluo with some worry, but still got up and walked out the door. After Yeezy left, Gluo pretended to perform for a while and finally took out his mobile phone to check the messages sent by Tangruoxi and the other two. During that period of time, the chaos around was far beyond Gluo's imagination. Someone hacked into the traffic light system, causing a traffic jam. At the same time, many suspicious people were wandering around, obviously doing the same thing as them. No, it was even more excessive than them. At least they were still acting, but these people's acting skills were really poor, and they almost wrote "I'm a bad guy" on their faces. Gluo, the situation is not good, very bad. Something will definitely happen today. Of course I know something will happen. Gluo also had a headache when he heard the message from Tangruoxi. Unlike Zuyi and Kaojanian, Tangruoxi was an evolver. Although she looked a little weird wearing a mask, she heard much more news than the two of them. Among them, Tangruoxi even heard that someone was going to plant a bomb and blow up the bridge not far away. Well, it was really a simple and crude plan. Robbery was so unskillful. Gluo could guess their plan. They invaded the traffic lights, blocked several streets around, deliberately kept the bridge open, and then waited for the car carrying the gold cup to pass through the bridge, and then blow up the bridge directly, letting the car fall down while they waited under the bridge. Wait. Even if the auction was over today, the gold cup should be left in the hotel's safe. Why didn't they think of attacking the hotel, but dropped it halfway? Could it be that they got some news? Or was there some very important clue that he overlooked? Gluo stopped replying to the messages from Tangruoxi and the other two. Instead, he picked up his phone, unfolded the nearby map, and observed the layout of the surroundings. There must be some clue that Gluo overlooked, but everyone else knew about it. The evolvers in the hotel undoubtedly had the same purpose as GLUO, to confirm the authenticity of the golden cup. But at the same time, they must have been prepared to snatch it, just like Sukinghan. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203, Kichudi's Hand Card. Those evolvers must have prepared to rob. What they came to confirm is whether it is necessary to do it. What's the point of showing me this? Kichudi stood in front of the long and narrow conference table and threw the information in her hand directly onto the table. Next to her, the 4 clerks who were sorting out the information trembled and dared not speak at all. Kichudi did not embarrass them too much. After all, these people had never experienced this scene and were not very useful. When she thought of this, Kichudi became a little irritated. When she left Zaojing, although the mission was very difficult, it did not require too many people, so she only brought Yeezy with her. Because she could trust Yeezy absolutely, it didn't matter, even if she knew about GLUO's existence. It's better to say that, if she died in the line of duty one day, her ashes would be handed over to GLUO by Yeezy. In this world, except in Nan, no one knows how important GLUO is to her. GLUO is the eternal nightmare in her heart, the only dawn. He is her salvation and hope, but also the imprint and torment of betrayal. She has become what she is now because of him, and she can live until now, all for him. If possible, she really wanted to die with him. Captain, I have something important to report. Yeezy. What's wrong? When Kichudi saw Yeezy coming, the first thing she thought of was that something happened to GLUO. Her head buzzed, and she almost fell down. It's the queen of the dark fire, Anujin. Yeezy was not a talkative person. After hearing her decisive and direct statement, Kichudi finally breathed a sigh of relief. She turned around and motioned Yeezy to follow her inside. In the compartment inside, she listened to Yeezy's report. That Anujin is here to see GLUO? Kichudi rubbed her cheeks, feeling that the thoughts in her head were a little confused. In the past years, she didn't know that there was a person named Anujin around GLUO. Until Kichudi went to Zaojing, she saw the name Anujin and the information she got, so she wrote it down. Anujin, the bloodline of the An family, that is so far away that it can't be collateral. It can be said that apart from the surname An, she and Annan have no blood relationship. Anujin's parents worked in the electronics industry in the early years, and the family was relatively wealthy, but their daughter was weak and sick since she was a child. When she was in kindergarten, she was basically sick every day, and hospitalization for injections was commonplace. Later, the hospital found a certain disease in Anujin, but even if the general pathology was known, there was no way to treat it, because there was no precedent. In this way, Anujin's kindergarten career was basically spent in a white ward, but fortunately, her body did not completely collapse, at least her condition was stabilized. Later, because Anujin couldn't beat Anujin, her parents sent her to a nearby elementary school, and GLUO happened to be her classmate at the time. No one knows what happened. Anyway, since Anujin started elementary school, her health has gradually improved. Of course, the disease has not been cured, but for some reason, she seems to be suppressed and can live a normal life. Anujin, whose condition has improved, finally got a childhood like other children. She is cute, beautiful, and kind, and almost every child likes to surround her, but it is strange that Anujin, who should have been the center of the crowd, has been following GLUO. When GLUO was in elementary school, he was smart and always ranked first in the exams, but he was rebellious and had a weird temper. He would not listen to anyone except his adoptive mother, and often, he would use some perverse theories to explain his various behaviors. For example, he beat his classmates and the whole class. Anyway, no one played with GLUO like this, except Anujin. She followed GLUO like a tail bug every day, and what she did was completely licking the dog. Many classmates have advised Anujin, but it's useless. Not only did she still follow GLUO, but she also broke up with those talkative classmates. In this situation, there was no turning point in the 6th grade of elementary school. Even in junior high school, Anujin was still Gluo's little yes man. She always had the 3 words Gluoj on her lips, and whether she was in school or on vacation, the focus of her life was always around Gluo. Until one day in the 2nd year of junior high school, Anujin didn't even go through the transfer procedures. She booked a flight ticket in the early morning of that day and flew away from her homeland that night and went abroad. In foreign countries, after leaving Gluo, Anujin transformed like an ugly duckling into a white swan and reached her current position at an incredible speed. In the whole of Western Europe, the title of Countess refers to her, and her name has become a legend. As for her illness, it disappeared inexplicably 3 years after she went abroad. No one knows how her illness was cured, not even Anujin's former attending physician. This also led to the 2nd case in China and the 2nd case in the world with the same illness as Anujin, who failed to receive effective treatment and passed away a few years after the illness. That person was called Li Zian, who was once the leading biologist in China. Before her death, she was only 32 years old, which was a pity. What happened to Anujin? Kichudi had never met Anujin. Anujin used to be just words on paper, but now she suddenly appeared in front of her. Or in other words, why did she leave in a hurry 10 years ago and come here 10 years later? Why again? Now, she met him and gave him a gift. What did she want to do? What does this indicate? Captain, Anujin didn't say her real name. She called herself Suzaku. Didn't say her real name. Gluo didn't recognize her? Didn't recognize her? What do you mean? Did Gluo know her? No. I'm dizzy. Kichudi showed an apologetic expression, but in her heart, a trembling thought had already arisen. Knock knock knock. At this moment, the door of the office was suddenly knocked. Kichudi said come in, and a clerk came in and handed Kichudi a letter. Letter? Who sent it? A person who calls himself Zion. Zion? Kichudi certainly knew who Zion was. She was Anujin's right-hand man, and had a very high status in the pitch black fire. Kichudi opened the envelope, hesitated for a moment, and took out a pair of thin gloves from the drawer. After putting them on, she pulled out the letter inside. The handwriting of the writer was very beautiful, giving people a pleasing feeling, but the letter itself was not long, and Kichudi finished reading it quickly. Anujin is going to visit the elementary and junior high school where she studied and donate to the school. Chapter 204, Slaughter Commandment. After reading Anujin's letter, Kichudi seemed a little out of control. She had doubted Anujin's purpose, but now it seemed that her previous guess had become a reality. Of course, other people certainly did not understand Anujin's purpose. They would only think that she was really here for tourism and doing charity for her hometown. However, Kichudi, who was staring at Gluo, could confirm that Anujin came back for Gluo. The reason was that she had clearly met Gluo, but she was so nonchalant. Is she demonstrating to me? Kichudi could not recognize all of Anujin's attitudes, but some of them were enough to be seen from this handwritten letter. Asshole. Kichudi wanted to tear up Anujin's letter, but she stopped before she did it. On the other side, Yeezy looked at her worriedly, wanting to say something, but she didn't dare to speak. Fortunately, Kichudi quickly sorted out her mentality. She handed the letter to Yeezy, then picked up a piece of paper on the table, wrote a few short lines, and handed it to the clerk, who came to deliver the letter. Right now, arrange a few people to ensure the safety of Anujin and his group. No one needs to keep an eye on them. They are not here to cause trouble, and they have no intention of interfering with the current situation. Understood. The young clerk nodded, as if he had been pardoned, took Kichudi's paper, and ran out to find his boss. Now, the entire Changlin City National Security Bureau 19 is under the full authority of Kichudi. Although he doesn't know why the superiors gave such an order, the smell of impending storm has made everyone silent. Captain, since Anujin is not interfering with the current situation, we don't have to worry about her. When we close the net, we can go all out. No, I just got a message. Our troubles seem to be not small. Although Kichudi said this, she was actually smiling, but her smile was very cold. She took the letter back from Yeezy and clipped it into the notebook on the desk. The earliest time for the support to arrive is around midnight, but before that, if the golden cup is left in the hotel, everything around here will be over. What happened? Yeezy knew that Kichudi had always been in contact with Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. She had met the man named Tang Xiujian once. Although he looked good on the outside, he was very threatening. He was the kind of person who would do anything to achieve his goal, and would never give up until he got the desired result. He was extremely dangerous. Tang Xiujian's reminder. Her reminding now. Kichudi leaned on the desk with a look of disdain and fear on her face. Zinke Biopharmaceuticals is not a simple existence. The creator of this company is a super genius in biology. She was one of the first people to discover the emergence of superpowers. In other words, Li Xiaoan was the first person to conduct human experiments for superpowers, and Tang Xiujian was her most successful test subject. Of course, the caliber to the outside world is that Tang Xiujian is her adopted son. Isn't it funny? A person who was only 32 years old when he died adopted 32 children, most of whom died accidentally. Now it is found that the children who survived that year are basically missing. Only Tang Xiujian and a few brothers and sisters around him are known. However, even so, Kichudi had to admit that Li Xiaoan was really a genius. She had made breakthrough progress in biotechnology in just a few years of studying superpowers. The most important result was used by her in medical treatment. Although she failed to cure herself, she cured many important people. Finally, until Li Xiaoan died, she not only left a huge favor bonus for Tang Xiujian, but also did not waste her research results. Tang Xiujian continued to expand and achieved fruitful results in the medical field. Or in other words, Tang Xiujian only shared the results of medical treatment, and everything else was hidden by him. Even so, Zinke Biopharmaceuticals is still the largest partner of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau. The medical technology they provide has reduced the casualties to 1/10, and the latest technology can also restore the disabled to normal. Tang Xiujian is confident and fearless. Although he can cooperate, we must not put all our hopes on him, otherwise, we will suffer a great loss. Kichudi knew Tang Xiujian's thoughts very well. She even suspected that this so-called golden cup was planned by Tang Xiujian alone. Because all this is just too coincidental. The werewolf Sapin is dead, but the shadow 2G ran over. 2G, the fugitive who killed Captain Zhao? When Yeezy heard the name 2G, his face turned pale. The main reason why Kichudi could become the youngest captain of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau and take over the 17th Assault Team was that the previous generation of captains, along with 2/3 of the team members, were all dead. And the one who killed them was Taji, a very powerful, yet dangerous person who is good at hiding. A year ago, 2G pretended to be captured, then easily escaped from prison and rescued his imprisoned friend. At that time, the 17th Assault Team was ordered to hunt him down, but he almost killed them all. The members who survived in the end were all those who were rescued from the brink of death. 2G came, and he came for the Golden Cup. And now, Kichudi is here. The new captain of the 17th Assault Team is here. Life and death are no longer important. Revenge and judgment are the only things. Yes, he is here, and he appeared here by such a coincidence. Kichudi is not a fool. After the whole thing, he couldn't believe it. This is a coincidence. A tomb robber came back from the country and couldn't wait to auction an ancient artifact. The cup made of golden gemstones was obviously an ordinary item, but it was said to be a holy relic outside, and it was a legendary holy relic. Cain's blood-drinking evil cup. Is it possible? Is it possible to appear at such an ordinary auction? Easy. To be honest, I feel very bad now. I always feel that something unexpected will happen. Kichudi didn't know whether it was because she got the news of the appearance of Shadow 2G from Tang Xiujian. Anyway, her heart was beating very fast, and she couldn't calm down. Captain, it's okay. The golden cup is just an ordinary antique. It has no value. Those people won't go crazy and do anything right away. Although Yeezy was also very uncertain, she still pretended to be fine and comforted Kichudi. She also knew that the captain was under a lot of pressure now. With so many evolvers gathered here, even if the golden cup was fake, it would be a big problem. Chapter 205, Exhibition. It's weird no matter how you think about it. Even if the golden cup is fake, so many evolvers here are a huge trouble. GLUO sat alone in the box, looking at the terrain around the hotel, while thinking about Kichuda's ideas and methods. At present, there are only 3 situations. The first is that the golden cup is not a holy relic. The second is that the golden cup is a holy relic. The third is that the golden cup is Cain's evil cup of blood. If it is the first case, then the exhibition later will make the lie self-defeating. Although these evolvers who are watching will not directly cause damage, there will definitely be some who are angry and some who take action because of suspicion. If this is the case, Kichudi has a way to avoid it. Since the golden cup is just an ordinary antique, she will not be so secretive, directly disclose the information, and exhibit it as soon as possible, and maintain the security at an ordinary level. There will be no such evolvers today. Thinking about it this way, if this is the answer, either Kichudi is a fool, or she has a plan and purpose to gather so many evolvers here. GLUO believed that Kichudi was not a fool, so if that was the case, Kichudi must have a backup plan and huge profits. As for the second one, at first glance, it was the most suitable for the current situation. The golden cup was indeed a holy relic, but it was not that powerful, so it could be auctioned, and the National Security Bureau 19 was only responsible for security. But, is this possible? If you think about it carefully, you will know how outrageous it is. An auction was held just for security, and the National Security Bureau 19 accepted it. It was a waste of resources to use a cannon to kill a mosquito. And the third guess, the golden cup is Cain's blood-drinking evil cup, which is even more impossible. A holy relic of this level must be carefully kept by the National Security Bureau 19. Not to mention exhibition, it is impossible to let others know the news. So, the result is the first one. GLUO opened his eyes and chatted with Tangruoxi and the other 3 for a few words. He basically had the answer in his mind. There were indeed quite a few idle people around, but there were also some inferior people, and many of them were even hired hooligans. The whole thing was a bit like a drama. The 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau wanted to fish and stuffed all those unregistered evolvers, that is, the disharmonious factors of a harmonious society, into the fishing net. As for the hidden evolvers, although they were very curious about the golden cup, most of them were very restrained. They were testing without revealing their identities. To put it bluntly, it was to see that there were many fish near the bait, and to get close to them, so that others would be caught and eat the bait, which was also good. I always feel a long sigh of relief. GLUO had been uneasy before, but now he was basically sure that the golden cup was fake, so he didn't have those worries in his heart, but felt relieved. GLUO, I'm back. Yeezy didn't knock on the door, but pushed the door open directly, but she pushed the door very slowly, obviously giving GLUO time to react. Have you finished the report? The report is finished, and the exhibition of the auction items is about to start. Do you want to go and see it? Yeezy looked a little absent-minded. Although her tone was not very obvious, she actually didn't want GLUO to go, but how could GLUO accept her hint? He smiled and nodded decisively. Okay, I'm just curious about what these millions of things look like. Yeezy had no way to stop GLUO, so she could only nod. The captain had repeatedly told her that she was only responsible for protecting GLUO, and she didn't care what he wanted to do. After GLUO and Yeezy left the box, I don't know if someone had told them that the waiter actually wanted to lead them. GLUO waved his hand and refused. He just asked for the location and left the hotel restaurant. The auction house was on the 3rd floor of the hotel, but the exhibition venue was on the 4th floor of the hotel. When GLUO and Yeezy arrived at the door of the exhibition hall had not yet opened, but it was already full of people. Some were in suits, some were casual, and some were dressed up. Anyway, the people around were of different colors. Some of them were silent, some chatted casually, and some were warm and welcoming. GLUO and Yeezy were not abrupt among them, or it could be said that the people in this hall were too mixed, and no matter what kind of people were mixed in it, they couldn't see anything special. GLUO and Yeezy stood in the corner and had no intention of chatting with anyone. He deliberately looked at the surveillance cameras around and found that the number of cameras had not increased, at least not on the surface. Dear guests, the exhibition of the auction items is about to begin. Please enter in an orderly manner and do not stay for a long time. This door can only be used for entry. Please leave through another door. The process of the auction exhibition was obviously planned long ago, so a series of arrangements were in order. There were also special police officers with live ammunition standing around, which made everyone feel a chill in their hearts. After that, everything seemed to return to its normal track. There was no chaos and noise. Everyone accepted the arrangements very quietly. After passing the scan and security check, they walked into the exhibition hall. And GLUO, because of Yeezy's presence, did not accept any extra inspections. They did not even line up and directly became the authority dogs and entered the exhibition hall in the first batch. Wow, this peony is so beautiful, it's really well painted. GLUO looked at this painting for a long time like a bumpkin who had never seen the world and was amazed from time to time. If possible, GLUO would certainly want to rush in quickly, find the location of the golden cup immediately, and help Sukinghan confirm its authenticity. However, there is Yeezy next to GLUO now. No matter what his purpose is, it cannot be too obvious. He must show appreciation and cover up the facts. Of course, Yeezy's attention is not mainly on GLUO now. Although she follows GLUO, her eyes are always wandering in the hall, examining everyone she can see. That look, as if everyone is a criminal, full of caution and vigilance. Of course, even so, GLUO is still very careful. He plays his role very skillfully, browsing the authentic exhibits one by one, and sighing and commenting from time to time. Because GLUO walks very slowly, soon, the subsequent flow of people enters, and the exhibition hall is not so empty. GLUO no longer does conspicuous things, and carefully appreciates the collections along the way. Although he is anxious, GLUO controls his expression very well. There are special police with live ammunition next to each exhibit, and GLUO's performance did not arouse their vigilance. Obviously, GLUO succeeded, so he sped up and tried to find the location of the golden cup. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Chapter 206, The Truth Behind Being Replaced. Before coming here, Sukinghan had warned GLUO that if he was within 5 meters of the golden cup, the blood in the bottle began to heat up, then he must not show any abnormality. Just stay for about a minute, and then leave immediately. Don't do anything extra, just find an opportunity to inform Sukinghan, and then go home directly. Don't go anywhere. GLUO certainly remembered Sukinghan's instructions, but after coming to the hotel, a series of encounters have made GLUO let down his guard. His judgment can be confirmed in any way. No matter how much he thinks, the golden cup, it can't really be Kane's evil cup of drinking blood. However, at this moment, GLUO's eyes have not yet approached the golden cup in the protective shield, but the bottle in his pocket has already emitted a scorching heat that is enough to burn the skin. What the hell are you doing? GLUO was dizzy. He turned his head and looked at Yeezy beside him. At this time, she was also shocked and panicked. How is it possible? Yeezy also seemed to feel that it was unlikely. She turned her head and her eyes met GLUO for a moment. Facing GLUO's doubts, she finally couldn't hold on. GLUO, that golden cup is just an ordinary ancient artifact. It can't be a holy relic. I checked it, the captain checked it, and many people checked it. Yeezy's lips trembled, and her hands clenched into fists, as if she had seen some terrifying future. We actually just want to attract the evolvers with bad intentions. The 19th Bureau has a new holy relic that can record the breath of everyone who approaches it. What we want to do is just to capture some dangerous people. Yeezy, I understand. Don't worry, don't worry. GLUO has understood what Yeezy said. The current situation is indeed deliberately created by the 19th Bureau of the National Security. False news about the golden cup is flying everywhere. They deliberately let the evolvers with bad intentions come over, and then use the holy relic to record their breath, and then arrest and sweep. The plan has been thoroughly launched, and the effect of the implementation seems to be good. If everything goes well, The breath of each of these visitors will be recorded, and they will become the objects of screening and tracking. All evolvers who are out of management will be interrogated. If all this, the premise can only be that the golden cup is an ordinary ancient artifact, not a legendary holy relic. Impossible. Impossible. This feeling, a 6th gold level holy relic? Yeezy is also an evolver. Of course she can feel the abyss. That makes her tremble. There is no doubt that the holy relic in front of her is not the legendary Kane's blood drinking evil cup, but its grade is definitely a 6th gold level holy relic. So, what is a 6th gold level holy relic? According to the current recognized standard of the evolver world, it is second only to the treasures of mythical items such as the Kusanagi sword, the 8-foot mirror, the 8-foot Kyang Megathema, the Pangu axe, the Shenending, and the Nuwa stone. Each of the 6th golden grade holy relics has a long history engraved on them, and the stories they spread have become fairy tales or fables. Their existence is the proof of the manifestation of the source energy, and the characteristics they possess are some incredible miracles. Yeezy, calm down. Tell me, has the cup been swapped? Although GLUO has not seen many holy relics, at this moment, he clearly felt the abyss that was constantly overflowing from the golden cup. The cup is not, it is this golden cup, but, that gem. GLUO heard Yeezy's reminder, and moved his attention to the red gem, inlaid on the golden cup. It was because of this, that GLUO finally discovered, that this gem was as red as blood. The gem was swapped, and this gem is a 6th golden grade holy relic? Although GLUO knew this was the truth, he felt that this world was too crazy. What a joke. Would someone use a 6th golden grade holy relic as bait to set a trap? The 6th gold level holy relics are famous in the culture of every country, and are treasures that can be mentioned repeatedly in history. Its value cannot be measured by money. Every time it appears, there must be bloodshed in the most brutal competition. Yeezy, let's go out first. GLUO no longer thought about how this matter would end. The 6th gold level holy relics have been exhibited. What's the point of ending it? Just wait for the blood to flow like a river. GLUO, what are you doing? Let's put it away immediately. Too late. It's too late. GLUO grabbed Yeezy's arm. The girl wanted to push GLUO away, but the real power that GLUO burst out made her dragged away. GLUO, you too. Shut up. Let's go out. GLUO now knows that Yeezy's innate ability is called hostile perception. It is of no help in combat, but it can accurately judge the force field of others. Okay. Yeezy knew that GLUO was doing this for her own good, so the girl was pulled out by GLUO. Before leaving, the girl took one last look at the golden cup on display, full of sadness. Someone would rather sacrifice a 6th level gold relic than drive the gathered evolvers crazy and turn this place into the bloodiest battlefield. Who is it? Why? Yeezy couldn't figure out the reason for the incident. This was a 6th level gold relic. Could it really be used as a bargaining chip? Who was so generous that he actually took out such a big bet and made such a huge scene? GLUO, I'm going to report to the captain now. The truth must be found out immediately. There are only a few people who can touch the golden cup. He still has time to replace the gemstone, and he will definitely be able to find out immediately. Yeezy, does this make sense? GLUO pulled Yeezy to an empty room, looked at her fiercely, and forced her to calm down with murderous intent. Now, none of this matters. Who did it? Why did it happen? What did it want to do? These are important when we investigate later, but now, none of this matters. GLUO watched Yeezy regain her composure. He let go of her arm, and his tone softened. Yeezy, now that so many evolvers have gathered here, the 6th gold level relic has been displayed. The result is doomed, irreversible. You should know better than me the appeal of the 6th gold level relic. Next, it will be a bloody storm around it, with humans biting and killing each other, fighting to the death. In the eyes of those evolvers, the 6th gold level relic is above everything else, but you can't. You are the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau. The 6th gold level relic is important, but the lives of the tens of thousands of people around you are more important to you. Chapter 207, The Obvious Answer. GLUO could imagine that the evolvers hiding underwater, after hearing the news of the 6th golden relic, would gather like sharks smelling blood, and would seize this treasure regardless of the cost and consequences. Therefore, at present, in order to save the ordinary people around, the National Security Bureau 19 must make a choice. Either hold the sixth golden relic in hand, wait for help in the hotel, and welcome the attack and destruction of countless evolvers. Or, transport this relic away, as far as you can, away from the city, away from human habitation. Let these evolvers bite each other and kill each other. Easy. Don't forget, you are the 19th Bureau of the National Security. This is your home. If something is taken away, you can definitely take it back. They can't run away. Yes, what you said is right. Yeezy was convinced by GLUO's analysis. She took a deep breath, and when she raised her head, her eyes had returned to their usual calmness. GLUO, I'm going to report to the captain now. Be careful. Don't worry, I am an evolver after all. GLUO no longer hid his identity. He waved his hand and watched Yeezy leave the room. Then, GLUO took out the secret communicator prepared by Sukinghan and started to contact her. Hello. Sukinghan, can you hear me? GLUO, I can hear you. Tell me the situation right now. I got some news. It's very confusing. On the other end of the communication, Sukinghan's tone was trembling, and she seemed very excited. GLUO could also understand the reason for her excitement, so he paused and told Sukinghan about the matter after Sukinghan was calm enough. GLUO, thank you. Your mission has been completed. Now leave the hotel quickly. Leave quickly, the farther the better. Sukinghan's voice was so excited that she could hardly restrain herself. There was a noise around her, as if she was preparing something. Sukinghan, you knew earlier, this golden cup is not Kane's evil cup of blood drinking? GLUO heard something from Sukinghan's tone. He didn't blame Sukinghan for hiding some information from him, but now, he needed these reasons. Yes, I know. I even know that this golden cup is just an ordinary ancient artifact, not even a holy relic, but Sukinghan paused here, as if he was hesitating whether to tell GLUO the next content. On the other end of the communicator, GLUO was not in a hurry, just waiting silently. GLUO, I'll tell you the truth. I'm sure that all of this was done by Tang Zujian. He did all this to lure me out. The golden cup is not important at all. What's important is the gem on it. No, to be precise, the golden cup was useless from beginning to end, but I've seen the same style of the red gem on it. This is a tacit understanding between me and Tang Zujian. No, only the 32 brothers and sisters of our time know it. If he wants to lure me out, he must come up with enough chips, and now that he has come up with them, I must go. Sukinghan spoke in a decisive tone. She had fought with Tang Zujian for so long, and she really knew his methods. Now, Tang Zujian has already laid down his chips, a 6th level gold relic, a treasure that Sukinghan needs most, and is of great significance to her. And Sukinghan will not hesitate. She will go there in person regardless of life or death. This feeling is like the opportunity you have been waiting for, and you thought you would see it in a few years, but suddenly it appears in front of you, because of the enemy's plan. Tang Zujian. GLUO whispered the name, recalling the other party's youthful face. It was hard to imagine that such a big move was made by such a young person. However, GLUO believed in Sukinghan and her judgment. However, GLUO was very curious about the reason why Tang Zujian did this kind of small all-in behavior. This was not at all like what a person who was sure of winning would do. Instead, it was a bit like a bet made by a dying person to find a way out. GLUO, go quickly, leave immediately, the war is coming. At this time, Sukinghan described the future of the hotel as not chaos or fighting, but war. In war, victory or defeat is never determined by casualties, but by the results. GLUO held the communicator in his hand and suddenly fell into a long silence. At this moment, Tang Zujian made a huge plan, putting Kichudi, Sukinghan, and all the hidden evolvers around him in it. The bargaining chip used was only a 6th level gold holy relic. The reason why it was only was because everything was not over yet. Tang Zujian would not necessarily lose this treasure. Tang Zujian must be standing outside the situation now, observing the evolution of the situation. If there is a suitable opportunity and sufficient necessity, he may intervene personally to take back his bargaining chip. If Tang Zujian succeeds, it means that he has easily provoked a small war, causing countless evolvers to fight to the death, and the majesty of the National Security Bureau 19 will be lost. Kichudi, the stubborn girl, will definitely be implicated and demoted, and even punished. Sukinghan, can you tell me what that gem means? GLUO, that gem is as important as my life. I have someone I must defeat no matter what. Without that gem, I will never have a chance. Sukinghan unexpectedly answered GLUO's question at this time. After hearing the answer, GLUO pondered for a long time and finally sighed. Even if the price is life. Even if the price is life. Okay, Sukinghan, I have an idea, you can listen to it. If it really works, you may be able to get the golden cup in your hands without bleeding. GLUO already understood that he could not stop Sukinghan. Since he could not stop her, he might as well go with the flow and lend her a hand. Sukinghan had made up her mind. She was sure that the value of this 6th level gold holy relic was higher than her life, so she was willing to fight and gamble. In this case, why should he be a bad guy and make people hate him for no reason? GLUO, do you really have a way? Sukinghan could hardly imagine that GLUO could find a solution to the problem so quickly, and listening to his answer, it seemed like the best of both worlds. Yes, I have a way, but the way is very dangerous, and there is a high probability that you will die. I do. Sukinghan still believed in GLUO. In this situation, GLUO still remained calm, which meant that he already had a way. Well, now, you go out first, and then. Chapter 208, Turning Around and Finding No One. If we turn back the time to before the exhibition of the Golden Cup, absolutely no one would believe that a 6th level gold relic was placed in the hall so openly for people to see. Although there were armed protectors around, there were always some evolvers whose original talents had the ability to be immune to bullets, but no one took action. Or rather, no one dared to take action first. After all, the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau was in charge of the hotel, and the posture they were showing now was that they had absolute confidence in controlling the situation. Therefore, everyone was waiting, holding their breath, waiting for the flaws of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau, or for someone to test the bottom line of the other party. But unfortunately, almost everyone held this mentality, so the scene became a stalemate, or a wonderful balance. The flow of people watching the exhibition was not only not crowded, but more anxious than the other. They had already confirmed their goals, and the rest was to start planning to become the final winner. Of course, most of the people visiting the exhibition were actually agents like GLUO. The strength of the 19th National Security Bureau made the evolvers hide. Although they would get closer to such a suspicious scene, they still remained cautious. The caution of all the evolvers turned the situation around. Kichudi was in command in the hotel. She just watched the surveillance at first, and did not notice the abnormality of the golden cup until Yeezy rushed into the command hall. What? Are you sure you are not kidding? After listening to Yeezy's story, Kichudi thought it was impossible at first, but looking at Yeezy's serious expression, Kichudi's expression changed. Everyone pay attention. Carry out according to the planned plan, and make sure to ensure the stability of the scene. Kichudi clapped her hands and informed everyone of her order. Yeezy looked at her anxiously, but Kichudi was still not in a hurry and gave her a calm look. Afterwards, everyone in the hall responded to Kichudi's order. Kichudi nodded and took Yeezy out of the command room. As soon as she went out, Kichudi's expression became ugly. Yeezy, I can now be sure that this is a conspiracy. I even suspect that the compass that can record breath fell into our hands on the way here. It was just a coincidence. Kichudi is not a pessimistic person, but in this situation, she can't help but be pessimistic. Only by pulling the situation to the worst expectation can we deal with all dangers, Captain. What should we do now? We should take the golden cup away immediately, or evacuate the crowd. Yeezy followed behind Kichudi, already anxious. Although she looked cold on weekdays, her heart was easily confused when facing a big event. Kichudi, however, remained calm at this time. She had just used actions and orders to stabilize the hearts of the people in the command room. Now when it came to confirming some important information, she chose to go out in person. No, we can't be so anxious about those things. The more we act anxiously without thinking, the more we fall into the opponent's trap. The golden cup is now exposed to everyone's eyes, but this exposure has become a display of confidence. The mosquitoes and flies that surround it dare not act rashly. They are afraid of death. To be honest, we are really borrowing the reputation of the National Security Bureau 19. Since the golden cup will not be in trouble immediately, the most important thing is not to move it, but to confirm our situation and the purpose of the mastermind behind the scenes. Kichudi did not choose to take the elevator. She hurriedly led Yeezy down and stopped at a room on the 4th floor. And now, the simplest thing to confirm is a conspiracy line. When did it entangle us? Kichudi knocked on the door, and there was no answer from the door. The girl did not hesitate and punched the door lock directly, breaking the bull lock into pieces. Bang! Kichudi kicked the door open, and the room was indeed empty. The water is still hot. He just left. Yeezy walked to the table, put her finger into the water cup, and got an obvious answer. Kichudi walked around the room and didn't find any useful information. It's so funny. Kichudi wiped her face and felt that she had never been so embarrassed. This room is the room closest to the exhibition hall. The holy relic compass that can record the breath of others and search and track them is placed here and used by 2 members of the National Security Bureau 19 in Changlin City. Both of them are revolvers of the bronze level. However, now, the situation that no one expected has appeared. The 2 revolvers actually betrayed the National Security Bureau 19 and ran away with the holy relic. They are committing treason. Yeezy was so angry that she gritted her teeth and charged the 2 people with the most serious crime. Basically, there was no need for trial. They were shot directly on sight. The man behind the scenes has good means. If I'm not mistaken, the werewolf Sapin was brought here by him. Kichudi has been in the National Security Bureau 19 for so many years. She has seen a lot. When in Zhejiang, Kichudi was also very curious about why the werewolf Sapin came to Changlin City. It would be an exaggeration to say that this place is a 2nd tier or even 3rd tier city, and it has no reputation in the international community. The most famous company is a branch of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals. Because this branch has invested enough funds, it can be said that it completely crushes other companies in Changlin City. It is such a place that the werewolf Sapin not only knows, but also came straight here after entering the country. If there is no guide, Kichudi will be killed on the spot. It is precisely because of this concern that the headquarters asked her to come here in person, and if necessary, clean up the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau in Changlin City, and make sure that there will be no big chaos. If necessary, you can apply for support. No one can think that the situation is so bad. Kichudi and Yeezy's itinerary was exposed from the beginning. When the 2 got on the plane, there was a coincidental case handling, and they got a compass-shaped holy relic, which is very suitable for recording and searching for criminals. Thinking about it now, it's really ridiculous. Everything was calculated by someone. What's more terrifying is that the other party even calculated who would use this compass and instigated the person to rebel in advance. When everyone was stuck in the quagmire, the mastermind behind the scenes took back the compass-shaped holy relic without any soldiers. He calculated it to the bone. From the beginning to the end, he knew our itinerary, instigated the evolvers of the 19th Bureau of the Changlin National Security Bureau to rebel in advance, and changed the gems before the golden cup was displayed without anyone noticing. Chapter 209, Dark Shadows. This is really a great power. Although Kichudi was laughing, her laugh was cold and cruel. The mastermind behind the scenes, who set up such a big plan, completely ignored her. Captain, the one who can do this, is not from the Changlin City branch. Yeezy still felt a little incredible until now. Because of their abilities, the evolvers themselves don't care much about vulgar things. It is not a simple matter to persuade them to betray the country. In fact, it can be said very clearly that, if you are an ordinary person, no matter how rich and powerful you are, you will be looked down upon if you go to lobby an evolver. The evolvers of the 19th National Security Bureau chose to betray, and 2 of them at the same time. The other party must also be an evolver, and definitely higher than the bronze rank. No, it's so obvious, they can't be so stupid. Kichudi certainly considered the personnel of the branch, and even from the very beginning, she suspected them. Therefore, Kichudi had already investigated everyone. There must be corruption and bribery, and there are also many who abuse their power for personal gain, but they don't have the courage to betray the 19th National Security Bureau. Because the personnel of the National Security Bureau 19 obey not ordinary laws, but the evolve regulations of the same level as military law. There is no prosecution or judgment for betraying the National Security Bureau 19, only execution. Easy. Where is Tang Zujian, the chairman of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, now? Is he in Chang'an City? Captain, you suspect. Easy immediately took out her mobile phone and made a call, but Kichudi did not anxiously change the plan or make any command response. Instead, she sat at the table, looked at the position of the utensils on the table, and judged the mental journey of the two betrayers before they left. The still warm water, the neatly arranged documents, and the dust-free desktop, all the clues, all show that these two people did not hesitate or regret, but tidied their desks, as if they resigned and left. Before they left, they might have been full of beautiful ideas about the future, and even had a vision of the next job. So beautiful, so innocent. The promises they received were too good. These two people will not survive. Kichudi's judgment was somewhat arbitrary. This was her intuition, and could also be regarded as her experience. The mastermind behind the scenes did so much and always hid behind the scenes, which showed that he did not want to confront the National Security Bureau 19. And these two betrayers are definitely the targets that the National Security Bureau 19 will pursue at all costs. When a country seriously pursues someone, there must be results. So the initiator of all this can only kill the two of them, because the dead can't speak and won't reveal secrets. Then the bodies of the two of them will be found soon, which is not only to cut off the clues, but also a hint to the National Security Bureau 19 not to investigate further. There will be no results. Captain, Tang Zujian left by plane 3 days ago, on the grounds of negotiating business. 3 days ago, at this time point. Kichudi looked up and calculated the time. At this point, the compass had already fallen into the hands of the two of them. Captain, why don't you report to the headquarters and report him her report? What's the reason? Will it be useful? Kichudi stood up from the chair, with no expression on her face, as if the previous anger had disappeared. Let's go. We can't leave the command room for too long. Since the other party has made a move, we have to respond. Kichudi didn't explain too much to Yeezy. Although Yeezy was curious, she knew that the captain would not make a move without reason, so she didn't say anything, and just followed Kichudi's footsteps. A businessman who is rich enough to rival a country does such a thing. Not to mention others. I myself don't believe it. It's inexplicable. Kichudi combined all the clues and suspected Tang Zujian at the first time, but she didn't think of reporting these things. First, it was useless, and second, it was easy to be targeted. What Tang Zujian can be sure of is that he is already the richest man in the country, and even in the world. People in this situation are not people she, the captain of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau and the 17th Assault Team, can judge. Moreover, Kichudi is only suspicious now, without any evidence pointing to Tang Zujian. What is his motive? What's the point? Even if the search yields any results, it will only end up as a scapegoat. It has to be said that the network of relationships that Tang Zujian inherited from Li Ziaoan is really too huge. Up to now, as a doctor, he is still kind to others and has good relations with everyone. He devotes himself to charity every day, knows how to do all kinds of things that benefit the country and the people at a young age, and knows the general situation, does not fight or grab, and all kinds of evaluations are almost perfect. But just like this, Kichudi saw the deep and huge hideousness hidden behind all this. No one is perfect. A young man in his 20s lives as transparently as an old man in his 70s and 80s, and his life is simple and peaceful, which is completely incompatible with his financial power. This shows that he has a big desire in his heart, so big that even with the power and financial resources he has now, he still has to keep a low profile. Of course, if this is the case, then this matter may be the first step for him to show his fangs. He is ready and can do it. Facing such a deep-minded and powerful monster, Kichudi didn't want to be too reckless. The first bird to stick its head out will be shot. If she, a team leader, jumps too much, she will be targeted. At that time, it will be a big trouble. Tang Zujian, I will always watch you. I hope you can hide like this forever. Kichudi's face did not show any emotion at this time, but in fact, she was already furious. However, Gluo often told her in the past that the angrier she was, the more she should stay calm. Because your enemy may be waiting for you to make a mistake because of anger. Especially after being tricked, rage is useless. If you act rashly, you will end up in prison and lose everything in the end. Captain Yeezy followed Kichudi and was particularly worried about her condition. As a 3 blue steel evolver, Kichudi's source power can be freely released, and her control over the source power is already as good as her arm. But it was this kind of control that caused the space around Kichudi to fluctuate slightly under the huge anger. The invisible mist kept stirring in her body, and the brilliance of the source power in her pupils kept flickering, as if it was rolling like a raging wave. But fortunately, Kichudi finally controlled herself. She and Yeezy walked back to the command room. As soon as they entered the door, a clerk hurried over. Captain Key, there is a man named Gluo who came to see you. He was arranged in the reception room. Tea has just been served. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210, Shurafield. Gluo. Kichudi had never expected that Gluo would appear here now. Although it was a bit inappropriate at this time, the girl couldn't help but feel happy. So, Kichudi didn't even finish listening to the clerk's report and hurried to the door of the reception room. Then she stopped, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. Kichudi wanted to greet Gluo with a smile on her face, but she never expected that the first figure in her sight after opening the door was a woman. Anyone who saw Sukinghan had to admit that her beauty was natural and did not need any decoration. She would make people feel ashamed just standing there. She was about 1.7 meters tall, with just the right curves, eyebrows like willows, pure black eyes clear and deep, light pink lips shining, and well-proportioned facial features arranged like a carved exquisite feeling. The girl in front of the window looked out the window with her black hair hanging down. When she heard the knock on the door, she turned her head, and her momentum was ready to go. Indifferent, apathetic, heroic, and valiant, these temperaments are perfectly integrated in her. Even if you just look at her, you can feel the will to live against death in her body. Kichudi and Sukinghan kept looking at each other, and the smile on their faces gradually faded. She stood at the door, keeping the posture of pushing the door open, and never moved. On the other side, Sukinghan had no intention of giving in. She looked at Kichudi with pure eyes, without any emotion on her face, but the intention of confrontation was never concealed. Captain, what's wrong? Yeezy followed Kichudi, trotting a few steps and still fell behind. Because of Kichudi's obstruction, she could not see the situation in the room. Because she was curious about why Kichudi stood there, Yeezy slightly turned sideways and looked inside the room. She was also stunned. In the room, Gluo, who Kichudi thought about day and night, was sitting on the sofa, with a tense expression on his face. In front of the side window of the room, a self-deprecating girl stood there quietly, with no concession in her eyes. What are you all staring at? Come in and talk. Gluo reached out to pick up the teacup, took a sip of water, and then spoke. No one noticed that Gluo's hands were shaking when he picked up the cup. To be honest, because the situation was a bit urgent, Gluo had never thought about how dangerous it would be for Sukinghan and Kichudi to meet. Until just now, when the clerk brought him tea, he looked at him with curiosity, and Gluo suddenly realized what a stupid thing he had done. However, this is inevitable. Compared to the swordplay when the two met, Gluo was more afraid that they would really meet on the battlefield. Gluo, who is this? You haven't introduced it to me yet. Kichudi finally calmed down. The current situation was not the time to be jealous. She let go of the door handle, walked into the room, and sat opposite Gluo, and Yeezy behind her. After silently closing the door, chose to stand behind Kichudi, and did not sit down. Her name is Sukinghan, my friend. Although Gluo was a little worried, he did not feel guilty. After all, the relationship between Sukinghan and him was really just simple friends, at most, more than friends, but less than lovers. Sukinghan, this is Kichudi, a very important friend of mine. Childhood sweetheart, and ex-girlfriend. Kichudi was very dissatisfied with Gluo's introduction and directly added 2 more suffixes. Sukinghan's eyes stayed on Gluo's face for a while, nodded, walked to Gluo leisurely, and sat next to him. Miss Kichudi, I didn't expect that Gluo would know a big shot like you. The 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau, the leader of the 17th Squadron. Gluo doesn't understand, but I still understand what your identity means. And, the origin of the name of Zuja. Sukinghan's attitude towards Gluo has always been a little restrained. She always abides by the bottom line in her heart, and never shows any excessive affection for Gluo. However, at this time, Sukinghan was particularly strong in front of Kichudi, or a little impulsive to signal Gluo's belonging. Haha, what a coincidence. Miss Sukinghan, I saw your name in a document of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau, although, it's not a good thing. Kichudi didn't know Sukinghan before. She just read Tang Zujian's information carefully, and had some memories of the other 31 children with the same background as him. Sukinghan's name appeared in the list of those who were still alive. Kichudi even thought about finding Sukinghan and asking him something, but because of Tang Zujian, she didn't do it after all. But now, in front of her love rival, Kichudi knew so much about her background. Of course she couldn't act so ignorant and just pretend. Then I'm really honored. They are just trivial matters that are not worth mentioning. Sukinghan showed a faint smile on her face. Obviously, she was very confident in her information. Although her escape was full of thorns, under the effect of death retrospection, her information only affected a few people at most, and the harm caused was not great. Many of them did not even meet the conditions for filing a case. Yes, they were all trivial matters in the past, but it may be different in the future. Kichudi's attitude was very bad, and she seemed to want to fabricate a crime for Sukinghan. However, Sukinghan did not care at all, and just made a gesture of invitation, which meant that it was up to you. To be honest, Sukinghan did not know much about Kichudi. It was just that the name of Zuja represented a style that was too frightening, so it was widely known in the dark side of the world. Not long ago, Sukinghan was really shocked when he heard Gluo's idea. The person who fully controlled the hotel at the moment, let alone the position, was very extraordinary in terms of ability and courage. But after that, after listening to Gluo's explanation, Sukinghan roughly understood Kichudi and his story, so he stopped hesitating and drove over directly. On the way, Sukinghan investigated Kichudi's information and spent a lot of money to barely get satisfactory information. What is the relationship between Gluo and Sukinghan like? Naturally, Gluo underestimated the power of money. He never expected that Sukinghan knew so much about the past, or in other words, Kichudi was so powerful that even the news of her childhood could be dug out. Okay, stop arguing. You two, what's going on? You're still like children. Gluo pinched his forehead and felt that he was a bit of a suicide, but this matter was a dead end. What else could he do except do this? In order to complete his plan, he must let Sukinghan and Kichudi sit together and have a good talk. Only by talking clearly in person can there be a chance of success. After all, his idea was too fantastic. Chapter 211, Winter Poetry. Gluo, I'm curious, why did you bring this person here? Kichudi was not an ordinary person after all. Facing Gluo's mediation, she suppressed her anger and chose to have a good talk with Gluo. She came here for the 6th gold level holy relic. Gluo also knew that this matter was not easy to discuss, but under the current situation, this was indeed a win-win situation. Kichudi, the golden cup has been exhibited. The gem on it is a 6th gold holy relic. This matter has probably spread thousands of miles away now. The current situation in the hotel is already afire. It only takes a little spark to burn everything to ashes. Those evolvers who are eyeing the holy relic will not care about ordinary people. They will do anything. So, the best way now is to take the golden cup away from the hotel in full view of the public. As long as this sixth gold holy relic leaves the city, those evolvers will naturally follow it. At that time, it doesn't matter how they fight, or how many people die. GLUO had told Yeezy about this method before, and Yeezy had reported it to Kichudi. The girl had thought about this method before, and now after listening to GLUO's words, she already had an idea in her mind. GLUO, do you mean that I give the golden cup to her and let her take it away? As a member of the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau, Kichudi naturally cares more about the safety of civilians than a holy relic. But now, GLUO pulled someone from nowhere and said that she could trust him and that, if he gave her the sixth gold relic, he could get rid of the blame. Who would believe it? GLUO, this joke is not funny at all. It is a sixth gold relic, Virgin Islands gold. Kichuda's previous idea was very simple, that is, she would take the relic away by herself, and the hotel would be well defended. As long as she persisted for more than 10 hours, the support from the headquarters would arrive. Miss Kichudi, do you think GLUO is joking? Sukinghan was not angry at Kichuda's disdainful attitude. She just took out a few pieces of paper from her pocket and handed them to Kichudi. Take a look at these news that I bought at a high price. Don't hold on to your fantasy and wait for death. Phantom 2G is here. He doesn't take action now because he is waiting for the opportunity to kill you. Kichudi was very unhappy with Sukinghan's tone, but she didn't cover up the matter that concerned the lives of countless people. Kichudi did not even refute Sukinghan that she had known about it for a long time. The girl just opened the materials, glanced at them, and put the documents on the table. These things. I owe you a favor. Kichudi did not try to be brave and deliberately discredit Sukinghan's help, but she did not intend to accept GLUO's opinion, and just shook her head. Not long ago, Zinke Biopharmaceuticals contacted me, and said that Shadow 2G had come. I thought he was still watching or hiding somewhere, but I didn't expect. He became a member of the hotel long before the auction was decided to be held. Miss Kichudi, I will only say these words to you. I will not admit anything after this. Sukinghan knew that these chips were not enough to make Kichudi believe her, so she could only reveal some deeper secrets. I'm sure that all of this is Tang Ziujian's plan. I'm not sure about his purpose yet, but forcing me to show up must be one of the key points. The holy relic gem inlaid on the golden cup, although it looks crimson, is actually a clear ice blue gem. The reason it changed color is to conceal its power. The origin of this 6th gold level holy relic gem comes from a poem describing the cold winter. The reasons and process of its formation are no longer known, but the first time I saw it was in the hands of my adoptive mother Lisa Owen. In order to express his sincerity, Sukinghan directly said Tang Ziujian's name. Yeezy on the other side was startled, but Kichudi, who had guessed it long ago, said nothing and just waited. Waiting for Sukinghan to continue and explain everything. I don't know what price Lisa Owen paid to exchange for this ice crystal gem called Winter Poem. But since she fell asleep, this gem has been used to freeze her body. Use a 6th golden level holy relic to preserve the body? Kichudi did not question Sukinghan's words. She was just very curious. Why did Lisa Owen spend a huge price to exchange for an ice type 6th golden level holy relic before she died? And the function was just to preserve her body. No, not preservation. It's freezing. Seal her life breath and freeze her life state. Sukinghan's words sounded very inexplicable, but at this moment, GLUO and Kichudi, who understood her words, turned their eyes and looked at Sukinghan in disbelief. Your adoptive mother, she wants to revive. Kichudi knew the story of Lisa Owen. That woman was really a legend in biology. Her wisdom and thinking were unmatched. When she died, countless people regretted it. I don't know, and I can't confirm it, but we all know that Tang Ziujian has been planning something, and for this purpose, he is willing to sacrifice all of us. When Sukinghan said this, she held the corner of her clothes tightly with both hands. Her words sounded simple and calm, but these simple words showed the ups and downs of life and death in the past. Tang Ziujian, he is an obedient child, and Lisa Owen treats him the best. He always remembers it, so no matter what Lee Zhaoan asks him to do, he will obey. Although Su Qinghan called her adoptive mother's name before, the tone of this sentence sounded full of coldness. Obviously that person is her adoptive mother. Why on earth would she become like this now? Now, since Winter Poem has been used as a bargaining chip by Tang Zujian, then I can be sure that Lee Zhaoan no longer needs it. What a fantastic story that sounds a bit. I really want to believe you. So, do you have any evidence? Kichudi's job is not playing house. As a national agency to restrain evolutionists, they enforce laws and regulations, and talk about evidence. Or, in other words, facing a person of Tang Zujian's level, ordinary evidence is meaningless, and it can't bring him down. Of course I don't have evidence, and I can't give you evidence. I've given you the reasons to believe me. It depends on your choice. Su Qinghan was very calm at this time. She was determined to get Winter Poem. If Kichudi gave it to her, she would definitely lead everyone away as agreed. But if Kichudi chose to refuse, Su Qinghan would return to the original plan and prepare to snatch it by force. Chapter 212. Can't let go. Kichudi was sure that Su Qinghan must know a lot of Tang Zujian's secrets. She actually wanted to use her Winter Poem in exchange. In the current situation, Kichudi also agreed with Jialuo's words. Letting someone take the golden cup away was undoubtedly a good way to divert danger. However, after all, it was a 6th level gold relic. Although it was not hers, Kichudi was unwilling to let it slip away from her like this, so she wanted to exchange some secrets from Su Qinghan that could threaten Tang Zujian. However, what Kichudi didn't expect was that Su Qinghan refused without hesitation, even though she had hinted at it. Was this showing mercy to Tang Zujian, her former brother, or did she know very well that she couldn't bring Tang Zujian down, and that any more information she told would be useless and trivial? Su Qinghan, I can give you the golden cup, but I hope you swear that you will do your best to divert everyone's attention. Kichudi is not a person who is too entangled. Although Su Qinghan's refusal is very unpleasant, she can't keep hesitating, since it is beneficial to the current situation. Okay, I swear to you. Even after hearing Kichudi's explicit consent, Su Qinghan still did not show a happy expression. That kind of indifference made Kichudi angry. No, not me. Swear to Jialuo. Kichudi's little thoughts were still exposed. Anyway, she was very unhappy with Su Qinghan, especially when Jialuo was sitting next to her, which made Kichudi even more unhappy. So Kichudi wanted to make trouble. If the golden cup was given to Su Qinghan, it would definitely be a meat bun hitting a dog. But if Su Qinghan broke her oath, then her image in Jialuo's heart would definitely collapse completely. Thinking of this, Kichudi didn't feel so bad about the loss of the 6th level gold relic. She felt that she had a little genius. She picked up the water cup leisurely and was sure of her victory. Okay. Su Qinghan didn't hesitate too much, nor was she too impatient. She nodded, then turned to look at Jialuo, her expression gradually becoming serious. As a bystander, Jialuo didn't comment on the conversation between Kichudi and Su Qinghan. As long as the two of them could sit down and talk, the matter would be settled. As for who suffered a loss or not, that was their own business. Only by not helping each other could they calm down and exchange conditions. Jialuo implemented this decision very well, so when Su Qinghan solemnly swore to him, Jialuo didn't say anything, but nodded to indicate that he remembered it after the oath. As a witness, and also as an examiner. Okay, let's do it this way. Easy, take her to arrange the handover. You must let her take the golden cup in front of everyone. There is no need to do anything extra. Kichudi's decisiveness was also unexpected. Su Qinghan only made a verbal vow, and she started to complete the transaction directly. Understood. Yeezy had returned to her usual indifference at this time. She made a gesture of invitation. Su Qinghan stood up from the sofa, paused for a moment with his eyes on Jialuo's face, and nodded. Jialuo, thank you. Su Qinghan left the room quickly, as if she didn't want to hear Jialuo's reply. She followed Yeezy, and walked straight to the exhibition hall. Jialuo, what's wrong? Are you worried about your little lover? Kichudi told herself several times not to be angry, not to lose her temper, but after Yeezy and Su Qinghan left, she still couldn't help but get angry. This is her choice. I have no right to comment. GLUO sat on the sofa, lowered his head slightly, making it difficult to see his expression, but Kichudi could see his emotional changes clearly. GLUO. Kichudi suddenly shouted GLUO's name in a sharp voice. GLUO suddenly felt her killing intent and raised his head abruptly. At this moment, in GLUO's eyes, Kichudi's right hand pointed upward like a knife and smashed down on his head like a chopped axe blade. In a flash, GLUO felt the threat of death. He didn't hesitate at all. He raised his hands and held Kichudi's arms. Then, in a thought, GLUO gave up the death return that he had taken from Sukinghan and took Kichudi's blood song in his hands. Sure enough, you never lied to me. What you said has always been true. Kichudi was just trying to test GLUO. Now that there is a result, the girl will certainly not continue. She retracted her arm, looked at her palm, and slowly clenched and released it. How many years have passed, GLUO, and how many years have passed? I have returned to the past again. I cannot control my blood, and I cannot use it to kill people. Kichudi, let it go, let it go. GLUO frowned, shook his head, and silently returned the blood song to Kichudi. Just now, for a moment, he still blamed her a little. After all, Sukinghan was going to such a dangerous battlefield, and he would be very passive without the death return in his hand. As for now, there is no time to touch Sukinghan again and retake it. However, GLUO came back to his senses, and after thinking carefully, he understood Kichudi's thoughts, so he no longer blamed her, but just felt uncomfortable. The reason why Kichudi took action against him was to really confirm whether he was really capable of intervening in the crisis. She understood him, and she was just trying to understand him, so she knew that GLUO would definitely take action in Sukinghan's affairs. Therefore, in order to ensure GLUO's safety, Kichudi had to first confirm GLUO's level he was really able to save people, not to die in vain. Let go? How to let go? Kichudi felt the restoration of her innate ability. Not only did she not smile, but she cried silently. The two of them had really changed. If it was in the past, no matter how she played, he knew that she would not hurt him. However, just now, when she showed her killing intention, GLUO's body was instantly ready to fight. It was not a conditioned reflex, but, in his heart, he might always be on guard against her. It has changed. Everything has changed. She is no longer the her of the past, and he is still the boy of the past. This dislocation in time and space made it impossible for her to express her feelings. Obviously, the same amount of time has passed. Why is he as persistent and stubborn as before? And she has already had her hand stained with blood and has become a person who regards killing as a job. The most important thing is that Kichudi suddenly discovered her true heart. She can't believe him absolutely. Maybe it's because of Sukinghan's appearance, maybe not, but when GLUO suggested that Sukinghan take the golden cup away, her first thought was doubt. Kichudi, let it go. It's hard to let it go. Chapter 213, Knife on a Rainy Night. GLUO understands Kichudi. Even though so much time has passed, and Kichudi's character has become sharp and sharp, the real her has never changed. Kichudi is a kind child, a child who always embarrasses herself. If a person really lets go, how can he keep thinking about her? Kichudi, you have grown up, really grown up. GLUO looked at Kichudi with tears on her face, slowly stretched out his hand, and wiped the tears from her cheeks, drop by drop, bit by bit. You know, you were wrong in the past. I know that you understand that you are wrong. I admit that I can't let go of the past easily, but when I see you again, I really want to let go. Please don't force me, give me some time, wait for me to completely let go. GLUO has been wandering for so many years, and compared to the past, he has become much calmer. He deeply feels that the world is full of suffering, so he wants to forgive Kichudi, for himself, and for her future. And you, it's time to let it go. You are no longer that weak girl. You don't need my protection. You can even protect me. Don't deny yourself. The path you chose will allow you to rise from the ashes and live a more wonderful life than me. Ah, yes. I can't stay where I'm and be left so far behind by you. Kichudi reached out to wipe away her tears, pushed away GLUO's hand that was wiping his tears, shook his head, waved his hand, and signaled GLUO that it was not necessary. Kichudi, come on. Thousands of people around here are counting on you. GLUO understood what Kichudi meant, so he didn't get close to her again, but stood up from the sofa and walked towards the door. GLUO, are we still friends? Kichudi wiped away her tears with her sleeves. Her eyes were red, she pursed her lips, and refused to cry anymore. Of course, you are a friend I will never lose. GLUO put his hand on the door handle, and after hearing what Kichudi said, he turned his head and smiled brightly. Then, GLUO nodded at Kichudi, opened the door forcefully, and left here in big strides. GLUO, you really have never lost me. It's just, I have lost the you I once was. Kichudi sat alone in the room. The sunlight outside the window was so bright that it was terrifying. The girl raised her body backwards, immersed her cheek in the shadow, and fled from the light. The me of the past lost the you of the past. I admit my failure, but now, you remind me that I am different now. In the dark shadow, a smile slowly appeared on Kichudi's face. She stretched out her hand to cover her cheek, and then wiped it hard. When she raised her head again, the expression on the girl's face had become cold as a knife that kills people on a rainy night. The blood had flowed away, and the knife was cold, but its nature had changed. It was not a knife for peeling fruit, but a murder weapon. Outside the house, illuminated by the sun, the light and shadow in the corridor kept swaying. GLUO walked in the graceful shadow, not knowing what kind of transformation the girl in the room had undergone in her heart. He just walked forward slowly, stopped at the position he was in, turned around, and looked out the window quietly. At this moment, Sukinghan, led by Yeezy, surrounded by dozens of armed guards, holding the golden cup, entered an off-road vehicle. The aura of the 6th level gold relic permeated the surroundings without any cover. Ordinary people only felt a repressive atmosphere, but all the evolutionists who were watching had already begun to get agitated. The previously blocked street had been cleared to make a way. Yeezy directly used the police to make Sukinghan's initial path unobstructed in an unreasonable way. Under the gaze of countless people, Sukinghan, carrying the 6th level gold relic, disappeared at the end of the long street at a speed that was not worth his life. Sukinghan, we have an appointment. GLUO watched Sukinghan disappear in the street scene. He took out his mobile phone and dialed an unfamiliar number. Soon, the other end answered the call. Hello, this is the Wangsheng Hall. The master is busy with cremation. If you need anything, please leave a message. I'm looking for the master of the Wangsheng Hall to talk about the second half price. The code is correct. Transferring with a temporary silence on the other end of the phone, the call began to be dialed quickly, one number after another, the place of origin in the north and south, until half a minute later, a voice with a changed voice sounded. Hello, I'm the master of the Wangsheng Hall. Hello, I'm Sukinghan's friend. Now, I want to change the content of your transaction with her. On the way to GLUO and Sukinghan, the girl called the intelligence dealer named Master of the Wangsheng Hall and did not avoid him, so GLUO remembered the whole process and found an opportunity to confirm the phone number. What do you want to do? The intelligence dealer on the other side immediately became alert when he heard GLUO mention Sukinghan's name, but GLUO didn't care about it and continued to talk. Don't get me wrong, I'm also on Sukinghan's side. Now, the route she's going to is probably set by you, right? I want you to modify it a little bit to make her situation safer. No, this is the route Sukinghan and I agreed on. My relationship with her is very good, and I really hate your idea of changing her plan without her permission. So, you have to pay more. Although the voice was changed, everyone could hear how open and above board this person was. GLUO didn't expect the other party to make such a turn, and he was even stunned for a moment. On the other side, it seemed that GLUO was frightened by her, and her tone was a little uneasy. In short, Sukinghan is my friend and important client. You are attacking her, so you have to pay more. Okay, pay more. GLUO answered without any hesitation this time, and the other party was also very happy and seemed to be very satisfied with GLUO's understanding. After the two chatted for more than 10 minutes, GLUO hung up the phone and called another 10,000 yuan. In fact, GLUO heard from the phone call between Su Qinghan and this person that she had a very good relationship with Su Qinghan. It was for this reason that GLUO looked for her. In fact, GLUO knew very well that the reason of adding money was nothing more than a way to cheat him out of money. As long as GLUO's proposal was good for Su Qinghan, the other party would definitely implement it. But if GLUO wanted to frame Su Qinghan, it was estimated that the other party would simply take the money and not do the job, and then completely block GLUO. So despicable. But this has nothing to do with now. GLUO weighed the phone and suddenly grabbed it in his right hand. Then, GLUO turned around and stepped into the open elevator door, silently pressing the number -2. Without death return, I'm really a little unsure. Chapter 214, Fossils. Kichuda's sudden probing just now made GLUO give up his prepared trump card. If possible, GLUO really wanted to meet Su Qinghan right away, but the situation did not seem to give him this opportunity. I hope Tang Ruoxi and the others won't let me down. GLUO was alone in the elevator, feeling a little uneasy for some reason. He took out his cell phone and was about to call Tang Ruoxi, but suddenly, the elevator stopped on the first floor below ground. Ding. The elevator opened, and a man in a white suit stood at the door. He nodded to GLUO, then walked into the elevator, pressed the door closing button, and then stood beside GLUO, as if he was also waiting for the elevator to go down to the second floor below ground. Can you tell me when you will catch up with me? GLUO put his cell phone back into his pocket. His expression became serious, while the man opposite him still had a relaxed smile on his face. Mr. GLUO, you are a little too excited. I came here with no ill intentions. I just want to talk to you. As if to show his goodwill, the man stretched out his hand and wanted to shake hands with GLUO. GLUO's expression paused for a moment and then stretched out his hand. Mr. GLUO, I'm very curious. What did Ms. Kichudi talk to you about? And what is your relationship with Ms. Su Qinghan? The man in the white suit, after shaking GLUO's hand, showed a confident smile on his face, as if he thought he had taken control of the situation. GLUO just looked at him coldly, as if he was looking at a clown. Complete the capture. Return date is converted into petrified source power. Petrified source power. Add the concept of petrification to the source power, which can be converted into special rocks. You are such an idiot. GLUO held the man's palm and activated his ability silently, and the man in the suit, who thought he had won the game, was about to turn GLUO's palm into rock to teach GLUO a lesson. However, the next moment, in the man's horrified eyes, his and GLUO's clenched palms began to be covered by black rocks. The man struggled to pull out his palm, but GLUO activated his ability and was even faster than him. In just a dozen seconds, his entire right arm was completely sealed by the rock. No. How is it possible? How could you? The man's shrill screams were meaningless. GLUO just looked at him indifferently, and at the cost of consuming source power, he stimulated the birth of rocks on the man's body. Ding. The elevator stopped at the second underground floor, and then the elevator door opened. GLUO stood calmly in the middle. On the side of the elevator, there was a lifelike human-like stone sculpture with a particularly hideous face. I feel that this ability is quite useful. GLUO walked out of the elevator and tried to use petrification source power on himself. In just a few blinks, the black rock like the stratum corneum completely covered his palm and forearm, shining faintly in the dim light. Interesting. GLUO clenched his fist and swung it at the car next to him. After a loud noise, the door of the whole car was twisted and deformed, but GLUO's fist did not feel any pain. It would be a pity if I didn't fight with someone after getting a new toy. Don't you think? GLUO pulled his hand out of the scrapped car door. 4 or 5 figures had already surrounded him at the corner. GLUO controlled the rock in his right hand to break, and then vertically formed a knife. He used the source of power to generate the rock, and instantly constructed a half-meter long rock knife with his hand knife as the node. The whole rock knife was perfectly integrated with the rock structure of GLUO's forearm. From a distance, it looked like a layer of black armor. Faced with GLUO's attitude of no return, the few people who surrounded him hesitated, but unfortunately, GLUO did not give them a chance. He didn't even give them a chance to speak. I've already used a knife. Why are you still thinking about beeping? GLUO's short-range burst speed is particularly terrifying. In a dimly lit place like an underground parking lot, the 5 people who came overreacted, and GLUO had pierced a person's heart with the rock blade in his right hand. Ordinary people. GLUO turned his head slightly puzzled. The 3 people nearby were shocked. Only the person at the back reacted and turned around to run away. You are their boss. Why are you running? GLUO's voice echoed slightly in the empty underground. The man's body began to gradually become transparent while running away, as if he had turned into a jellyfish, but unfortunately his speed could not pull the distance. At the turn more than 10 meters away, he was pierced through the chest by GLUO from behind. On the rock blade that pierced the flesh, the overflowing blood was like pouring red ink. GLUO stood behind him and silently pulled out his right arm. The man was thrown on the ground like garbage, and as the winner, GLUO, because of the rock covering, he didn't even get a drop of blood. Kichudi Sukinghan, it's not easy for them, and it's not easy for me either. Life is like this, so stressful. Although GLUO seemed to be talking to himself, he was actually talking to the man on the ground. Although his chest was pierced, he was not dead yet, but he was not far from death. The competition in this society is very fierce. Everyone has to fight hard. You are not fighting hard enough, so you will die. And I fight hard enough. GLUO smiled, as if he was announcing something. The rock blade wrapped around his right arm suddenly stabbed out and directly opened the concrete pillar beside him. Friends in the garage, do you still want to fight? If you want to fight, I will accompany you. If not, I will leave. Let me make it clear first, I will kill people. If you die, you will have nothing. If I die, I will have nothing either. GLUO's eyes swept across the second underground floor. The shadowy figures moved, but no one spoke in the end. It seems that everyone is a good person. I'm very happy and grateful. GLUO swung his right hand, and the black rock covering fell down and piled up on the ground. Then we'll say goodbye. See you later. GLUO looked around for the last time. After confirming that no one came up, GLUO turned and walked towards the exit of the garage. At the beginning, GLUO was still keeping his pace, but when he approached the exit, GLUO ran faster and faster, and finally almost rushed out of the ramp. Fortunately, everything was fine. The gang was frightened by him and did not really rush over and cut him into pieces. Of course, it is also possible that they were a little afraid of death or worried about casualties after discovering that GLUO was very good at fighting. It is more likely that they are afraid that the fisherman will benefit from the quarrel between the snipe and the clam, so the 3 monks have no water to drink and watch GLUO leave. What are these people staring at me for? They are staring at Sukinghan. She has a 6th gold level holy relic in her hand. Chapter 215, Overturn. Although GLUO was attacked, and his plan suffered a minor setback, the overall direction was still successful. After running out of the garage, GLUO went around the side of the hotel, and found Kao Janian, who was waiting in a slightly narrow alley. GLUO, how is the situation? Everything is fine. I'll leave it to you from now on. Although GLUO was unsure, he was always a wise general in front of Kao Janian. That's good. Don't worry. I will do my best to monitor this place and report to you at any time. Kao Janian smiled and nodded, handed a key to GLUO, and then left the alley without any hesitation. I haven't completely recovered yet, and I have to grind. GLUO watched Kao Janian disappear in the distance. Then he walked to the motorcycle not far away, took off the helmet from the handlebars, and put it on. Then inserted the key, and started the engine. A real-life violent motorcycle? Love it. GLUO turned the throttle, and a deafening roar sounded. With the smoke floating all the way, GLUO rushed out of the alley in an instant. When you encounter a red light, you sedans will throw money away. GLUO had long since asked the master of the Rebirth Hall to invade the traffic facilities. Now the traffic in the entire city center of Changlin City has been corrupted. As long as you take a car, don't even think about getting out. GLUO, who had long expected this situation, of course made sufficient preparations. People who are used to driving probably don't even think that the fastest means of transportation to catch up with Sukinghan now is two wheels. Of course, we have to admit that GLUO drove desperately enough. He turned the throttle directly to the bottom. The motorcycle didn't need to encounter a big slope. With a little ups and downs, he and the motorcycle could fly up. Of course, no matter how thrilling it is, you can land safely. To date, GLUO has been a bronze rank evolver for more than a month. I don't know if it's the benefit of building a foundation for 10 years. Anyway, GLUO has been able to feel his improvement every day since then. Now, accumulating a lot of strength for a while is not enough to describe GLUO. Especially in recent times, GLUO has a feeling of making rapid progress. To be honest, GLUO is getting stronger so fast that he is a little scared. In the deserted cemetery, GLUO was pulled into the soul illusion by Shushan King, and then he was completely suppressed, and his soul fell into the bottom of the sea of consciousness. There, GLUO met a girl named Crossing Yan, and recalled part of his soul from her. So, at that moment, GLUO's soul finally returned to its integrity. He entered the bronze level life from the transformation stage with an unstoppable momentum. And then it was incredibly fast to become stronger. For a full 10 years, GLUO's physical strength remained at 4 times that of a normal person, but in just over a month, GLUO's physical attributes doubled as a whole. There was no practice, and there was no panacea. GLUO just ate and drank normally, but just like that, he became twice as strong. In fact, the reason why GLUO stagnated for the past 2 days was because he had reached the peak of the bronze level I and was only waiting for an opportunity to break through and become a black iron level 2nd evolver. This is how incredible it is. Even GLUO doubted whether there was something wrong with his body. Every morning, when he pulled a chair to the dining table, he would break the solid wood backrest. The feeling of changing every day even made GLUO wonder if there was something wrong with him. But fortunately, GLUO did not feel bad. This transformation-like strengthening not only prevented GLUO from losing control, but also better trained his control ability, allowing him to go as he pleased. For example, now, next to the crowded road, GLUO slowed down for the first time. He changed from the lane to the crosswalk at a beautiful angle, and then stepped on the accelerator, and passed through the hurried crowd at the highest speed again. After leaving the city center, GLUO actually found a person who was as smart as him. The man also rode a motorcycle, but he was not as desperate as GLUO, so he was slower. "Brother, be careful in front," GLUO reminded the other party loudly as he approached him. The man was concentrating on controlling the motorcycle and was startled by GLUO's voice. Two-wheeled vehicles are very easy to drift at too fast speeds. If there is even the slightest mistake, the vehicle and the person will definitely fly up 3,600 degrees. The man was looking ahead, and he didn't see any obstacles at all, but GLUO's reminder still distracted him. In just 1 or 2 seconds, GLUO passed by him at an absolutely crushing speed and kicked his motorcycle while passing by. So, the man didn't even have time to react and flew up directly. Too fast speed, too violent deviation. Under the effect of inertia, the man and his motorcycle flew directly out of the lane, like a pinball, plowing a long mark on the ridge on the side of the road. Finally, after turning more than 3,600 times, the man fell headfirst into the weeds and never moved again. "So, I've warned you, be careful ahead." GLUO turned his head and said something sarcastic, then he turned back and prepared to drive safely. However, he was too happy and sad. GLUO's inflated mentality still made him flip over. It's not a metaphor, but a real flip. GLUO only looked at the result of his kick, but didn't expect that there was an empty water bottle in front of the road. At almost the highest speed, the motorcycle lost control by running over the water bottle. GLUO turned his head and the motorcycle flew up. GLUO, like a volleyball that was hit, went forward on the road. Bang! After a spin in the air, it just collided with a car coming from the opposite direction. Although the other car was at a normal speed, GLUO's speed was obviously abnormal, so the side lights of the car were smashed beyond recognition, and GLUO flew out again. Fortunately, the inertia was not great this time. GLUO rolled for a while between the ridges and successfully stopped. PFFT. GLUO lay on the ground and blew out the dirt in his mouth, but then he spat out a mouthful of blood. I almost died. GLUO took 2 breaths and stood up shakily. Although he felt a little dizzy, he was fine. With that kind of impact, ordinary people would have split apart on the spot, the kind that really split apart. Of course, ordinary evolvers would not be able to get away with it either. They would not die, but they would not be able to stand up. However, GLUO actually withstood it, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 216, On the Road. Ahem. Should I say that it is worthy of the body that is about to break through to the second black iron stage, or is it that the ability of petrification source power is too useful? GLUO stood between the bare edges of the field, took a few breaths, and patted his clothes. It turned out that nothing serious happened. It must be said that the body of the evolver is tough, especially the physical ability of the peak of the bronze stage, which is beyond the common sense of human concepts. Of course, GLUO is fine now, thanks to the effect of petrification source power. When GLUO was in midair, he desperately covered his whole body with a layer of rock, so that nothing serious happened after colliding with the car. It's just, unfortunately, GLUO's mobile phone is completely scrapped. Extreme joy brings sorrow. GLUO took out the broken mobile phone from his pocket, barely picked out the SIM card, and then walked towards the direction of the highway. Now, GLUO is at least half an hour away from the scheduled location, and this is still at his outrageous speed just now. If he really changes his legs and walks, he will not be able to get there in 2 or 3 hours. I can only stop the car. GLUO thought for a long time, and finally only thought of this method. He walked to the road and began to search around, trying to find a suitable tree to block the road. However, what GLUO did not expect was that at this moment, a high-end sports car in a miserable state actually drove over slowly. The reason why it is said to be in a miserable state is that the right side of the sports car has been smashed to pieces, and there are countless scratches. But the amazing thing is that such a miserable sports car did not brake, but stopped very smoothly in front of GLUO. "It's you?" GLUO looked at Yujing, who was terrified in front of him, and felt unusually kind because of this wonderful coincidence. The owner of the sports car that hit GLUO was none other than the guy who drove a sports car to Sukinghan's cake shop to buy cakes on Christmas, intending to show off, but was angered by GLUO and ran away. Of course, in other timelines, GLUO had been a partner with him for a period of time in order to find the missing Sukinghan. Generally speaking, although this kid has some problems of rich people, he is very timid and very easy to control. "How come you are not dead?" Yujing certainly remembered GLUO's face that made him angry, but the current situation is no longer a question of being angry, but a question of seeing a ghost. With that kind of collision just now, how could anyone not die? Are you kidding? Have you ever seen someone fly 40 or 50 meters, get up, pat his clothes, and walk back like nothing happened? How could I die? It's just a small thing. I won't die. GLUO knew that Yujing was a timid person, so he came up to him fiercely, and Yujing was really frightened by GLUO's attitude. "Yes, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing." "Said the wrong thing? Did you really say the wrong thing? You hit me so hard just now, I almost died, you know." GLUO looked around and found that this was a desolate place and the traffic system in Changlin City was paralyzed, so there were no other vehicles. He had to take Yujing's car. "Yujing, I'll give you 2 choices now. The first one is to let me drive your car and hit you once, just like you hit me just now. Don't worry, I will be careful and try not to kill you then." "What about the second choice?" Yujing looked at the blood on GLUO's face and had already made a choice in his heart. Just kidding, let alone the speed of GLUO just now. He couldn't stand being hit by a car. Especially GLUO's last sentence. It sounded like comfort, but it was obviously a threat. "The second choice is the only choice. If you don't choose it, you will die. The second choice, drive me to a place." Huh. Yujing thought he had heard it wrong. In his imagination, GLUO should be asking for money and all kinds of compensation. However, he never thought that GLUO's request was so simple. "What's wrong? You can't even drive me a ride." Okay, no problem at all." Yujing was actually a little grateful to Jialuo in his heart. He had to be grateful. Just in that situation, if it was someone else, he would have been sent to jail. My phone is broken, where's yours? Take it out and use it. Jialuo felt at ease taking Yujing's things, and Yujing was also sensible and obedient like a grandson. Go straight ahead along this road, just out of the city. There is an abandoned factory, you remember it, right? Jialuo sat in the back of the sports car, holding Yujing's phone, and began to look for a toothpick everywhere, trying to poke the groove for the mobile phone card. Abandoned factory, I don't remember, I don't know. Why is your memory so bad, you and I? Jialuo was about to say that he had walked to that place with him, but he stopped talking halfway. Yujing seemed to be frightened and shrank in the driver's seat and dared not move. Don't make that expression, as if I want to do something to you. Then turn on the navigation and find a spring cake shop. In order to change the subject, Jialuo pretended to flip the back seat and tried to find a toothpick. Yujing hesitated for a long time before taking out a mobile phone box from the truck bed and handed the tools inside to Jialuo. Well, thank you, let's drive. Jialuo changed the SIM card quickly, and then he didn't want to chat with Yujing anymore. Yujing breathed a sigh of relief and didn't dare to delay. He immediately started the car and headed in the direction Jialuo pointed. Because he changed to an unfamiliar mobile phone brand, Jialuo's typing speed slowed down, but fortunately he didn't have to type much. Just asking about the situation was enough. At the moment, Zuyi and Tang Ruoxi were setting up positions in the abandoned factory, and Kao Jianyan was left at the other end of the hotel to monitor the situation on the scene. Therefore, the only way Jialuo could get information about Su Qinghen's situation was from the intelligence dealer master of the Rebirth Hall. Although this guy was obsessed with money, he had to admit that her hacking skills were really good. From the information she sent to Jialuo, not only did she show him the mess in the city, but she also told Jialuo about Su Qinghen's route and the expected guidance route. The situation is worse than I imagined. Jialuo thought of the danger and hardship of Su Qinghen's escape, but he didn't expect that there were so many people who predicted that the 19th Bureau of the National Security Bureau would move the Golden Cup. These people were the first group to follow Su Qinghen. Although they did not launch an attack for the time being, they were just waiting for the opportunity. They were like a pack of wolves following their prey. People kept joining from all directions, not only forcing Su Qinghen's route, but also constantly consuming her energy. They were all waiting for the opportunity when Su Qinghen was weak. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217, Jianyuan. Everyone is waiting for the moment when I'm weak. In the speeding car, Su Qinghen's expression was as cold as frost. She did not increase the speed to the limit, because even if she increased it to the limit, it would be meaningless. Too many forces, too many people are chasing her and staring at her. They are wary of each other, but as long as the Golden Cup is still in her hand, there will be no melee between them. However, is Su Qinghen really willing to give up the winter poem that she has finally obtained? This ice blue gem is a true 6th level gold relic. It comes from a poem describing winter. That song has been floating in the north of the world for a full 1,200 years. At that time, Li Xiaoan was dying and had reached the end of death. She wanted to freeze herself with the winter poem, so someone must be able to activate it and release the power in it. At that time, there were only 20 children left out of their original 32 children, and after adaptation, there were only Su Qinghen and Jianyuan. Su Qinghen still remembers the round-faced girl with a lovely smile. She was adopted on the same day as himself. She was always fat because she loved to eat. Moreover, she was stupid and could not do many things well. Su Qinghen could not bear it, so he helped her for some time. However, Su Qinghen really did not expect that Jianyuan would always remember these things. Because of her carefree personality, Su Qinghen did not like her very much, but Jianyuan regarded her as her best friend. So, on that day, Sukinghan was obviously more suitable for Dong Zhishi, but Jiang Yuan took the initiative to apply and became a user of Dong Zhishi. From that day on, Sukinghan could no longer say the sorry she had always wanted to say to the smiling round-faced girl, because she herself, together with Li Zian, was frozen in the ice. Jiang Yuan, she had died a long time ago, had died, for her. As for why the tombstone in the cemetery says that Jiang Yuan died 4 years ago, it is of course because it was not until 4 years ago that her body was dug out of the ice and taken away from there, and the person who did all this was her, Sukinghan. On that day, Sukinghan actually wanted to take Dong Zhishi away, but after experiencing dozens of death returns, Sukinghan found that she could escape with Jiang Yuan's body, but if she wanted to take Dong Zhishi away, then she would not succeed, no matter how many times she died. There is a dead knot theorem in this world. At that time, she was too weak. Even if she died, and her soul was annihilated, she could not fight against Tang Zujian, who had become the chairman of Zinke Biopharmaceuticals, and her brothers and sisters who were carefully adjusted by her adoptive mother. So, the ending of the matter was that Sukinghan took Jiang Yuan's body back from the ice and buried her in the cemetery. That day was Christmas Eve, but unfortunately, they were not safe. For Sukinghan, the winter poem is far from being described by a 6th golden level holy relic. It represents a period of happiness and misery, a narrative poem of her having a home but slowly losing it. Of course, now Sukinghan wants to get the winter poem in order to fight against an enemy she cannot defeat. In order to save Mu Yingluo, she must defeat her at all costs. That person was once her most desired sister. Because of the yearning, she understands, and because of the understanding, she is afraid. As long as Fuke exists, Tang Zujian will not die. As long as she guards Mu Yingluo, Sukinghan will never be able to rescue her. So, she needs the winter poem. Tang Zujian must have seen this point, so he threw the winter poem. But even if it is a poisonous bait, Sukinghan must bite the hook, because she has no choice. In the end, I still have no choice. Sukinghan pursed his lips and accelerated the car again. The street scenes on both sides passed by quickly, and the vehicles following behind also stepped on the floor to catch up. Hello. 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 Sukinghan, what are you doing? Don't go so fast, it's very dangerous ahead. In the headset, the voice of the head of the Wangsheng Hall sounded a little anxious. Along the way, her guidance helped Sukinghan a lot. If she hadn't adjusted the signal light several times, Sukinghan would have been blocked by someone. It's okay, I know. Sukinghan stepped on the accelerator and unbuckled his seatbelt. The beeping reminder sounded, but Sukinghan didn't care at all. He just picked up the golden cup on the co-pilot seat and put it close to his body. Sukinghan, what do you want to do? Are you crazy? Do you know the consequences of doing this? Of course I know, don't worry, I'm fine. Sukinghan knew that the other party was worried about her, but in this situation, she couldn't get rid of the people behind her without some extraordinary means. Master, how many cars are following me? There are 21 cars at the nearest one. They are racing with you. In the distance, there are more than 30 cars chasing the first group. I tried to intercept them, but failed. At this point, the voice on the other end seemed a little angry. Those people have gone completely crazy. It's not a matter of running a red light. In order to move forward, they have completely ignored traffic rules and squeezed forward like crazy. Not bad, quite a few. Sukinghan glanced at the speedometer that was already pointing to the red zone and was even more satisfied with the cars following behind her. The drivers of these cars are obviously not ordinary people, as they can follow her so closely at such a desperate speed. And if they are revolvers, they must have come to Changlin City recently, and they must not be too clear about the road conditions in Changlin City. This is an opportunity. Further ahead is a very dangerous mountain road. The water flow of the small river below is relatively gentle, so it must have been frozen in this midwinter season. But the stream is a stream after all. If the vehicle flies out of the curve and falls into the stream, let alone the life or death of the driver, it is certain that the car cannot be driven. And Sukinghan will take this opportunity to escape, and the chances of success will be greatly increased. Master, the reason why you changed my route is because GLUO asked you to do so. Ah. What? Who is GLUO? I don't know. Don't play dumb. GLUO extorted a lot of things from me today in exchange for helping me get the golden cup. I don't believe he will do nothing. Although Su Qinghan did not expect that GLUO would have such an extraordinary side, it did not mean that she would doubt him. Su Qinghan, who has seen too many people and encountered too many things, thinks she is still good at judging people. GLUO, he did mark a place and wanted me to guide you there. Chapter 218, Crossroads. Where is it? Mark it for me. Su Qinghan was not angry because GLUO and the Master of the Rebirth Hall had conspired together. Not only that, even if she didn't ask about the inside story, she was willing to cooperate with their preparations. Ah. Okay. I'll send it to your phone right away. In the headset, the hacker girl's voice seemed very happy, and the crisp sound of keyboard tapping continued to come, obviously preparing something in a hurry. However, Su Qinghan's expression was more solemn than ever before. She stepped on the accelerator hard, holding the steering wheel with one hand, and holding the golden cup with the other. Then, the ice blue mist overflowed from Su Qinghan's body, and began to spread and flow on her body surface. The source power of the bronze level evolver can only flow in the bones and internal organs, while the source power of the black iron level evolver will fill the body surface and become the cornerstone of transcending the mortal world. Silently, Su Qinghan's pupils also turned into the light blue color of the frost source power. Due to the urging of the source power, everything in her sight began to slow down, and the huge curve in the distance was also extremely obvious. Under normal driving, Su Qinghan should have slowed down in advance and prepared to turn, but at this moment, Su Qinghan listened to the sound in the headset and resolutely stepped on the accelerator without letting go. The next moment the world around Su Qinghan was tumbling and falling in the vibration. The military off-road vehicle, at the extreme speed, almost directly smashed the roadside fence, and then the body of the vehicle tumbled in midair. The engine that rotated to the limit still urged the bearings, making the wheels spin wildly in the air. Darn. Because it was not the rainy season, the stream was not deep. Although the frozen ice layer could be walked on, it was impossible to bear the weight of the vehicle body. What's more, the military off-road vehicle fell headfirst and directly smashed the ice layer, and half of the front of the vehicle was stuffed into the ice hole. Su Qinghan, what happened to you? Is everything alright? Nothing. Keep busy. Su Qinghan's voice was still very calm. She kicked the windshield in front of her to pieces, turned over and ran out of the car, and began to run away along the frozen ice layer. Bang. Boom. Boom. On the road, the cars chasing Su Qinghan were in a mess because of the danger ahead, and the sound of collisions and crashes became one. The first few cars were completely maintaining the same speed as Su Qinghan, which resulted in them having no time to react. They flew off the road at the first moment and crashed into the ice layer like dumplings. You know, Su Qinghan was well prepared. The protection of the source force allowed her to survive the crisis, but these evolvers were mostly at the level of bronze rank. Either shock and collision made them dizzy, and then the car body sank into the river, which made them completely panic. Later, the terrible sound of the car accident gave the cars behind time to react. They stopped their cars in front of the broken fence, jumped off the shore, and chased Su Qinghan on the ice. The arrival of the third wave of cars was the worst. The road in front of them was completely blocked by abandoned vehicles. Dozens of cars were lined up on the road for nearly 100 meters. After they stopped, they didn't even know what happened. Of course, no one would tell them what happened. They could only learn from others and jump onto the frozen ice to chase Su Qinghan. However, this group of people didn't expect that the people they followed were actually the trap of their predecessors. Now, Su Qinghan has no means of transportation. Almost everyone thinks that she can't run away. They are surrounded by 20 or 30 evolvers. Killing and seizing treasures is inevitable. So, since they have succeeded, aren't the people behind them competitors? Facing the holy relics of the 6th gold level, everyone has become an enemy. There is no need to discuss it. It is the tacit understanding of the beneficiaries that there is no need to talk to confuse the people behind. As a result, the people at the back were completely led in the wrong direction and were temporarily eliminated. As for Sukinghan, there were about 24 or 25 people following her. She had sensed the number of people. Now the master of the rebirth hall could no longer help her. Sukinghan could only run desperately according to the predetermined route with her own ability. Fortunately, her strategy of division was very effective. Even the more than 20 people behind her deliberately helped her hide her tracks and became her few remaining pursuers. However, all of these people were confident in themselves. The bronze level evolvers had long been left behind by their speed. As they ran, the various colors of the source power were reflected in the trees. The air was cold, but Sukinghan felt like she was on fire. Her source power was a frost attribute, and she had no strength since speed and no endurance. If she kept running like this, it was almost certain that she would be caught up. She had to think of a way. Bang! Just when Sukinghan was looking for a way out, she suddenly heard a sound from the side. The girl immediately drew out the short knife at her side and slashed forward without hesitation. The instinct to kill in the sea of corpses and bones finally saved Sukinghan. Her slash seemed to have no signs, but it just happened to split the obstacle in front of her. It was a thick, dry black vine, like an octopus's arm. The vine kept twitching after it was broken, and a corrosive slurry flowed out. It's too coincidental. An old man with a haggard face walked out of the woods. He held a wooden stick in his hand, and the smile on his face was already sure of victory. Frost Disaster Sukinghan, I have heard of your name. Now, leave the golden cup and I will let you go. Dead corpse vine Lu Kangxi, I didn't expect you to be here. The 19th Security Bureau has searched all over the South Province to search for you, and you dare to show your head. Sukinghan pulled hard, tore off her coat, wrapped the golden cup into a bundle, and carried it behind her. Then she clenched the dagger with both hands, pretending to rush forward desperately. However, the reason why Lu Kangxi allowed Sukinghan to prepare was that he was brewing an attack. Almost when Sukinghan wanted to take a step, the ground with residual snow under her feet suddenly collapsed. In the snow powder all over the sky, 4 chain-like corpse vines were whipped towards her. Asshole. Sukinghan was ready for a fight to the death, but the appearance of the corpse vine Lu Kangxi still disrupted her plan. This person's fighting ability was not top-notch, but his ability to entangle people and the war of attrition were almost disgusting to the extreme. Now, Sukinghan is on the run. If it goes on like this, the people behind will catch up with her, and she will have almost no chance of survival. But, does she have any other choice? Sukinghan was born to die. The more she is in danger of death, the less she will escape, because she is alone and there is no escape. Chapter 219, Calculation. Dead corpse vine Lu Kangxi, I'm giving you my last warning. Get out of here. Sukinghan had no intention of dodging the 4 dead corpse vines that were entangled and swept over. She spun around like a dancer, and the silver-white short knife in her hand cut a path. The splashing corrosive liquid was blocked by the source power around Sukinghan, and froze into drops of ice crystals, falling to the ground. Frost Disaster Sukinghan, stop struggling. Hand over the golden cup and I can let you go. Otherwise, you will die here. Lu Kangxi stomped the wooden stick in his hand downward, and 7 or 8 thick dead corpse vines flew up. They kept entangled and growing, like weaving, and began to form a huge cage around them. Just now I said it was a coincidence, but was it really a coincidence? You were running in such a messy way, like a headless fly. How did I get in front of you and just stop you? There is a locator in the golden cup. Sukinghan held the weapon tightly in both hands, and her heart suddenly tightened. Of course, she had checked the golden cup, but those were all external inspections. Who would have thought that there was a positioning device hidden inside the golden cup? It is even possible that this positioning device is not an electronic component in the traditional sense, but the result of the original talent of a certain evolver. As long as Sukinghan holds the winter poem, she will not be able to escape surveillance. Child, don't show such a surprised expression. At my age, I don't intend to compete for the 6th gold level holy relic. I'm just doing things for money and stopping you for a while. Although the corpse vine Lu Kangxi said righteously, his eyes looking at the golden cup were still full of greed. Sukinghan stood where he was, maintaining an offensive posture, but did not act immediately. Obviously, with the corpse vine Lu Kangxi blocking her way, she couldn't escape immediately. Lu Kangshi's other abilities were not strong, but he was very good at wasting time. Su Qinghan could imagine that there might be countless vines hidden in the ground around her. These vines with corrosive liquid inside were not so easy to deal with. As long as I hand over the golden cup to me, will you let me go? Su Qinghan showed a thoughtful expression. She seemed to want to negotiate, and Lu Kangxi was also happy to do so, with a smile on his face. Of course, as long as you put down the golden cup, I will immediately get out of the way. To be honest, I have the golden cup to deal with the people behind me. You should also understand that without the entanglement of the golden cup, I can't stop you. Su Qinghan nodded silently, without replying or moving his feet. Lu Kangxi didn't care about Su Qinghan's hesitation. He waited quietly, as if he didn't know that Su Qinghan planned to delay until the people behind caught up. People don't cry until they see the coffin. Su Qinghan thought she had another way to go, but in fact, when she chose to greedily seize the winter poem, she was already in prison and couldn't get out. Lu Kangxi, I'm curious, who is so big-hearted that you can risk your life to take action? Su Qinghan had given up the idea of rushing out and was waiting for the people behind to catch up. She wanted to take this opportunity to get some information from Lu Kangxi, and Lu Kangxi's attitude seemed to be really like a kind old man, not like a madman who had slaughtered nearly 100 villagers. Instant Blade Zooting, have you heard of this name? I have heard of it. She was very famous in Japan in her early years, but later she ran back to China because she offended someone. When Su Qinghan heard the name Zooting, she thought of Tang Zhujian at the first time. She had received some information that Tang Zhujian had made great efforts to help Instant Blade Zooting escape back to China safely. Of course, Zooting, such an unruly person, would definitely not be Tang Zhujian's thug, but it is said that this person is very greedy for money, and it is not surprising that Tang Zhujian can order her around. She is the one who called me over. I have some illnesses recently, and she has medicine. I have to stop you. Please forgive me. Of course. Su Qinghan looked at Lu Kangxi coldly. Both of them knew that the other was talking nonsense, but they still pretended to believe it. Lu Kangxi, the corpse vine, is just like his title. He is a madman who kills people without hesitation. He and Zooting are not partners, so he naturally doesn't care about exposing her past. In fact, Lu Kangxi may be willing to see Su Qinghan and Zooting hostile to each other, so that he can get himself out of it and everything will be fine. As for the golden cup, Lu Kangxi must have thought about it, but as an evolver at the peak of the second Black Iron rank, he knows very well that he can't compare with Zooting at the peak of the 3 Blue Steel rank. Bronze level evolvers are similar to low level martial arts world warriors with internal force settings. They have a body and martial arts that have been tempered for thousands of times, and with the internal force that has a strengthening effect, they cannot withstand gun bullets, but they can still dodge. Black Iron level evolvers begin to feel like low level martial arts fantasy worlds, with some mysterious power, internal force, fighting spirit, spiritual power. Anyway, it doesn't matter what you call it. This power can already circulate in the body and form a full range of protection on the surface of the body. Gun bullets are completely ineffective, and the effect of explosion damage is very limited. Blue Steel level evolvers can be seen as a real fantasy world. Special energy is deeply hidden in the human body. The destructive power of every move is huge. It can also carry out appropriate long-range attacks. Guns and bombs are completely ineffective. This level has surpassed the concept of mortals and the limits of the secular world. As for silver level evolvers, it is completely a mid-level fantasy world. For some hidden reasons, they are completely non-human. The life form begins to break away from the concept of carbon-based life and move towards a higher level. Although they had just taken only one step, it was the most difficult step. For them, the number of enemies below the 4th silver rank was meaningless, and no matter how many there were, they would all die. As for the V-sub gold rank above the 4th silver rank, and the 6th gold rank at the top of the world, that was already unimaginable. Miss Su Qinghan, I'm also doing things for the sake of taking things. I hope you will forgive me. The corpse vine. Lu Kangxi repeated the previous words, as if to deliberately point it out. Su Qinghan did not speak, but just nodded casually. At this moment, the two people's minds changed again, because the people chasing Su Qinghan from behind came. Those who can covet the 6th gold rank holy relics are naturally people with some ability. Since the birth of the evolvers, it has only been less than 10 years, but these people have been able to reach the level of 2nd black iron rank, which shows that they are all extraordinary people. And the first one of the more than 20 followers who rushed into the corpse vines prison was a young man who looked very feminine. Chapter 220. Exit. I'm very sorry to interrupt your conversation like a cold-blooded venomous snake. The young man with a feminine face slowly walked into the arena. He didn't hold any weapons in his hands, and he was defenseless when he approached. He looked like an ordinary person who came to stop a fight. My name is Zizao, a traveler who likes to travel. I'm very happy today to be able to know you, the survivor Zizao. Liu Kangxi didn't let the feminine young man finish his words. The old man, who looked a little haggard, looked a little ferocious at this time, and was obviously very afraid of Zizao. Now, you still have a chance to leave. Don't think that you can't really die, just because you have escaped death so many times. You are courting death. Haha Mr. Liu Kangxi, the dead vine. To be honest, I still really want to die a little bit. Since Zizao was recognized by Liu Kangxi, he no longer concealed his identity. Behind him, the evolutionists who followed him began to approach, and completely surrounded the 3 people in the arena. Although Su Qinghan had been surrounded, and had no way to retreat, there was no panic on her face. The girl stared at the people approaching her indifferently, as if she was ready to draw her sword, and kill at any time. On the other side, the survivor, Zizao, looked at Su Qinghan with an admiring expression on his face. It seemed that he had a very good impression of her. Miss Su Qinghan, I heard your name a few years ago. I'm really amazed to see you today. Zizao's tone sounded very annoying. His attitude was very casual, as if he was not worried about death at all. Since he could not die, who should he be afraid of? As for me, I respect women like you who are both beautiful and heroic. If you are willing to hand over the golden cup, I'm very willing to protect you. Zizao emphasized the word protect very much, as if he was expressing his sincerity. Su Qinghan listened to his words. Not only did she not get angry, but she nodded seriously. I admit that I don't want to die here. Now I can give up the golden cup, but you have to let me leave. Su Qinghan's words sounded like she had already admitted defeat. She took the golden cup on her back and put it on the ground, laying out her chips. The aura of the 6th level gold relic was so openly revealed. Everyone present was shocked by Su Qinghan's attitude, but then they were greedy for the golden cup. Everyone, it's up to you. Su Qinghan didn't wait for others to answer. She put down the golden cup so decisively, turned around and started to walk out. Everyone present was frightened by Su Qinghan's decisiveness. Some of the 20 or so people who followed along the way naturally had other thoughts in their minds, but the 6th level gold relic was there, and their main focus was on fighting for it, and they could no longer attack Su Qinghan. As for the corpse vine Liu Kangxi, he also controlled the corpse vine to make way for Su Qinghan according to the previous agreement. His attitude was very gentle, just like a good old man. Or in other words, he was not worried about what would happen to Su Qinghan after she left. Her ending was already determined at the beginning. The winner on the other side, Zizao, entered the field later, but in fact, he was the closest to Su Qinghan. When Su Qinghan gave up the golden cup without hesitation, he was a little stunned. It was not until Su Qinghan left that he suddenly realized what a great position he was in. The people who followed Su Qinghan here were all for the golden cup on the ground. Now that Su Qinghan was gone, they looked left and right at each other, already full of vigilance. Now, the golden cup was no longer in anyone's hands. As long as they got it, they could own it. Without any signs, the snow-covered ground suddenly cracked, and a dead corpse vine broke out of the ground, instantly entangled the golden cup on the ground, and began to pull it back. The closest survivor, Zizao, had already anticipated this step. He swung his right hand, and his entire arm suddenly exploded. The muscles and blood vessels suddenly swelled, and quickly grew and extended, turning into a blood-red whip claw. The survivor, Zizao, looked like a monster in the biochemical crisis. His ugly claws grew to more than 5 meters in length. He tore the corpse vines wrapped around the golden cup apart, and took the treasure that everyone coveted in his hands. Zizao, you're looking for death. On the other side, the onlookers who were waiting for the opportunity finally couldn't sit still anymore. One of them fell to the ground, merged directly into the soil, and began to rush towards the golden cup. A chaotic battle began for a rare treasure in the world. Everyone took off their gentle appearance and became ferocious and cruel. This distance should be enough. Sukinghan rushed all the way and had already completely left the encirclement. She climbed to the top of a pine tree and looked at the chaotic battlefield 1,000 meters away with the same expression as usual. After confirming that she was far away, almost everyone's attention was on the golden cup. The one or two evolvers who thought too much were also deliberately thrown away by Sukinghan, who turned back and attacked them all. As a participant who knows the truth of this matter, Sukinghan is much smarter than these people. They are all fascinated by the 6th level gold relics. Occasionally, a few people who tend to be rational are also driven by the enthusiasm of others and become desperate. All this, from the very beginning, was a trap set by Tang Zujian for her, an insider. Although Sukinghan had to fight, it did not mean that she had lost her mind. In this world, except for the dead Jiang Yuan, no one knows the winter poem better than Sukinghan. Tang Zujian thought that he had done a very hidden trick on the winter poem, but how could he understand? She is the best candidate for the winter poem. As a legendary treasure of the frost system, the winter poem is in a dormant state. The frost it emits all the time always affects everything around it. In order to cover up this frost that cannot be hidden, Tang Zujian chose to wrap it with an extremely huge flame source power to form a tight seal. This method is indeed a very good choice when maintaining a certain balance ratio, but once someone tries to inject other source power into the gem, even the slightest impurity source power will break this delicate balance. As a result of the collapse of the balance, the flame source power will of course burst out completely, and the flame source power that can seal a 6th gold level holy relic, you can imagine how huge it will be. As for whether someone will break this balance, if they are aware of it, of course no one will do so, but now everyone is kept in the dark. What they know is probably that they just want to use the holy relic and need to inject their own source power. Chapter 221, The Suitable Person. Who will be the winner of the first half? Sukinghan stood on the tree trunk, calmly watching the chaotic battlefield. The strange and bizarre original talents may be the most powerful weapons of the evolvers, but it must be admitted that every one of the second Black Iron evolvers with the protection of the Source Force is an absolute beast. And now, more than 20 beasts without chains are fighting in the forest. They may have been somewhat restrained at the beginning, but as the war escalated and the first death was born, they went completely crazy. Everyone holding the golden cup will be besieged by everyone. At the beginning, Zizao had pretended to be injured and left the field, and Lu Kangxi also withdrew from the middle battle circle. The first few people who got the golden cup were still wary. After all, Sukinghan left too decisively, and they also felt that something was wrong, so they did not rashly try to use the golden cup. Until the 6th person got the golden cup, he could be described as impatient and injected the source force into the blood red gem. At that moment, the balance between ice and fire was broken. Everyone in the field only saw the gem flash a dazzling red light, and then, the flames that washed everything rose like clouds. Boom. It is difficult to describe how shocking the power of the source force is when it explodes. It is a bombardment that exceeds the intensity and impact of burning and explosion, and is at another extraordinary level. Steel melted in it, soil and rocks collapsed in it, and trees turned into ashes in it. The explosion was like a falling star, covering everything within a radius of 500 meters, like a furnace. Sukinghan was also shocked by this huge power. The spreading shockwave almost instantly smashed the trees under her feet into slag. If she hadn't been protected by the source force and maintained a safe distance of 1 kilometer, she would have been dead. No one can survive. Sukinghan waited for a while in place. After nothing unusual happened, she gradually approached the center of the explosion. Now, time is running out, and she must be quick. This huge explosion, it is estimated that no one within a few kilometers will not be unaware of it, and most of the evolvers who were chasing her must have been led away. Now this explosion will make them chase her again. Tang Zujian, is he crazy? Su Qinghan walked in and found out how much flame source power Tang Zijian used to seal the 6th gold level holy relic. With the explosion point as a center, everything within a kilometer in diameter disappeared. Ice and snow evaporated, trees turned to ashes, and humans were annihilated. The power of this explosion is too terrifying. Even if Su Qinghan hadn't brought the winter poem out, how many people would have died in the city center? He deserves to die. Su Qinghan once again confirmed that Tang Zijian had gone completely crazy. Li Xiao's death made him lose not his mother, a family member, but the god in his mind. In order to resurrect Li Xiao, he has lost his humanity and only has thorough calculations and plans left. Unable to suppress his murderous intent, Su Qinghan walked to the center of the pit formed by the explosion. The ice blue gem floated in the air, as pure as the blue reflected by the sky. This is the winter poem. It originated from a poem describing the cold winter. After thousands of years of recitation, it finally had a form and a miracle one day, and was born into the world. Just like that year, I'm here. Su Qinghan walked to the gem surrounded by frost, stretched out his hand, and held this 6th gold level treasure in his hand. In fact, the winter poem is not as big as others imagine. Its overall shape is similar to an olive, but its size is about the same as a walnut. The surface is not cut with gems, but under the sunlight, it is so dazzling that it is difficult to look away. Su Qinghan's frost source power is fully running, completely wrapping the winter poem. The biting coldness just now slowly disappears, and others can no longer feel abnormal. However, unlike what others imagined, Su Qinghan, who got the winter poem, had no intention of using it at all. Instead, he wrapped it with source power, fixed it with a pendant that had been prepared long ago, and kept it close to his body. As the best person to be qualified for the winter poem, Su Qinghan was the only one in the world who could preserve the winter poem in this way. As long as she kept the winter poem close to her body and wrapped it with source power, this 6th golden level holy relic gem would not emit its own aura and would be the same as an ordinary gem. When Su Qinghan needed to use it, he only needed to inject his own source power and draw out the concept contained in the winter poem, which would cause absolute freezing. However, everything in this world is not without a price. Just like the general evolutionists who use the original talent need to consume a lot of source power, Su Qinghan's use of death return would damage the soul power. To use the winter poem, not only the source power is lost, but also a more terrifying concept, erosion. Jiang Yuan back then could not even withstand the most basic erosion, and directly turned into a frozen statue, dying very quietly. Su Qinghan was also unable to confirm whether she could resist that kind of erosion. Even if she could resist the first time, how many times could she withstand the subsequent erosion? A 6th golden level holy relic, second only to the Kusanagi sword, the 8-foot mirror, and the Nuwa stone, which were mythical treasures. Its power was beyond doubt, but the price was something that humans could not master. In fact, it can be said very bluntly that the price of using a 6th golden level holy relic is death. Maybe it's not a direct death, but just a great proximity to death. But this price is every time. As long as you use it, as long as you covet its power, one day you will die from its backlash. Both Su Qinghan and Tang Zijian knew this. Tang Zijian released the winter poem with this idea: Su Qinghan can use the winter poem, and the consequence of using it is death. A death that cannot be reversed by any method, and a complete obliteration from the soul to the body. In this situation, death return is useless. Tang Zijian handed the winter poem to Su Qinghan, which was like handing her a sword, a double-edged sword, that could hurt others and herself. Perhaps, this could also be considered a gamble. Would Su Qinghan die first, because of the winter poem, or would Tang Zijian be killed by Su Qinghan first? Of course, in order to kill Tang Zijian, Su Qinghan must kill Fuke first. The winter poem was prepared for that sister of the 4th silver rank. Tang Zijian, what on earth do you want to do? Are you really not afraid? Su Qinghan kept the winter poem close to her body, but she still felt incredible in her heart. That's it? Did Tang Zijian really only prepare this backup for the winter poem? An explosion that she had expected, and that was it? Tang Zijian's preparations could never be just this, unless. Chapter 222, Mutation. Unless he has other purposes. Sukinghan knew Tang's Eujian very well. His scheming and calculations had been integrated into his bones. Almost everything would be considered and screened by him. And now, the situation that Sukinghan was experiencing must be the result of his secret push. Something very bad is approaching. Sukinghan kept the winter poem close to her body. Some bad premonition made her not leave immediately, but planned to check the surroundings again. But just as Sukinghan looked around, she suddenly noticed an abnormal distortion not far away from her. It was like the air distorted by heat when a stove was burning. Something that shouldn't be there was spying on Sukinghan. Who? Sukinghan drew out the dagger without hesitation, and the source of power burst out. The figure disappeared instantly. This resolute retreat allowed Sukinghan to avoid the most dangerous sneak attack. The distorted air appeared in Sukinghan's original position like a flash, and the two sharp fist blades faded away. As the figure appeared, the sharp blades rubbed in the air and made a solemn sound. Shadow 2G. Sukinghan never thought that 2G would hide here. This 3 blue steel level evolver obviously has the strongest power in the field. However, he just hid aside, watching others fight, and he took it directly from the final winner as a fisherman. It's really extremely shameless. Since Sukinghan knew about the existence of 2G, she certainly would not fail to learn anything. 2G's ability is similar to virtualization. After it is activated, non-source force attacks are ineffective against him, and he cannot attack other people. Of course, this kind of virtualization will not only be injured by source force, but also cannot be completely immune to explosion and fire damage. Sukinghan has been prepared for this. However, when Sukinghan took out grenades and incendiary bombs, 2G's figure had already disappeared in front of her, as if he had never appeared. Hide? Sukinghan really didn't expect that Shadow 2G would be so cunning, so disgusting. Obviously he could defeat Sukinghan, but he just didn't fight. He wanted to linger around, staring at Sukinghan, and waiting for an opportunity to move. He wanted Sukinghan to be terrified all the time, so that she had to use most of her energy to guard against him, and then neglect other precautions. Shadow 2G, are you so timid? As a level 3 blue steel evolver, your courage is disappointing. Sukinghan carefully checked his surroundings, and found no trace of Shadow 2G at all. He couldn't help but get anxious. Now, the people who were led away in the distance must be daring to this side. If Sukinghan was entangled by them, it would be difficult for him to escape. Arsehole. Sukinghan knew that she had to leave. Winter Poem had been completely unsealed. Without this bomb, her next trump card could only be to release Winter Poem. And that was undoubtedly extremely dangerous. Shadow 2G, what you did was really disappointing. Sukinghan began to retreat while being on guard. Although Shadow 2G's ability was even more terrifying in the dense forest, Sukinghan could no longer stay. Crackling. At this moment, Sukinghan heard a subtle sound, and Sukinghan instantly locked the location of the sound behind him. Sukinghan rolled to the side without hesitation and threw a burning bomb directly over. The flames burst out, and the target who intended to sneak attack Sukinghan was also completely exposed. Unlike what he imagined, what stretched out from the soil was not the sharp blade of Shadow 2G, but an ugly tentacle covered with blood-red granulations and blood vessels. What is this? Sukinghan felt that the scene in front of him was extremely horrifying. Although the abilities of the evolvers were strange, they could not be good people to create such an ugly and disgusting individual. Crackling, crackling, crackling. The sound of fragments began to sound around. Sukinghan looked down at the ground and was sure that something was awakening underground. Sukinghan did not hesitate anymore. She turned around and started running towards the woods. As she moved, as if sensing the vibration of her footsteps, the monster underground finally moved. Puff, puff, poof. At that moment, dozens of blood-red fleshy tentacles popped out from the ground. Sukinghan ran all the way, and the ground beneath her feet instantly cracked, and the trees along the way were also smashed into pieces. As if completely awakened, a bloated, ugly giant more than 5 meters tall emerged from the ground. Its skin had been burned and festered by the flames, but without the skin, it was clear that its blood vessels and muscles were growing continuously. The creeping horror scene was numbing. What was even more terrifying was that more than a dozen human heads stretched out from its body, as if these people's bodies had been melted into it and became part of it. While running away, Sukinghan only turned her head once and confirmed the identity of those heads. The head of the withered corpse Vine Lu Kangxi was the most obvious, and the others were also acquaintances from before. These people were really swallowed by this ugly and disgusting monster and became part of it. Sukinghan saw traces of corpse vines on these flesh tentacles. This flesh giant had lost its eyes, but it sensed Sukinghan's movement and rushed over like a bulldozer running at full speed. "Give it to me, Sukinghan. Give it to me. Give me the golden cup." The flesh giant's voice was extremely unpleasant. It was difficult for people to confirm whether he was conscious or not, but through his voice, Sukinghan remembered who he was. The survivor, Zizao. Sukinghan's footsteps moved rapidly between the tree trunks. Her previous footholds were constantly torn apart by the flesh tentacles. The scene was disgusting and terrifying. Sukinghan, Zizao, who had become a flesh giant, seemed to have only his previous obsession left. His voice was deafening, and it was estimated that people 1 or 2 kilometers away could hear it. Legend has it that Zizao's recovery ability is just a little stronger, but how could he become such a monster? Sukinghan's head was a little confused now. Why did the feminine young man just become like this after experiencing an explosion? What exactly is his ability? This is too horrible. Sukinghan didn't dare to stay any longer. The flesh giant was destroying crazily. In just 1 or 2 minutes, more than a dozen flesh tentacles grew out. These new tentacles were covered with white barbs. When they hit people, they would tear their limbs off. "Give me the golden cup." Chapter 223, Extreme Moment. The flesh and blood giant was over 5 meters tall. Its bloated body slowed it down a bit, but its steps were too big, and each movement was equivalent to a distance of more than 10 steps of a human. The head, which had completely lost its voice, was embedded in the flesh and blood giant like a mural. One of its arms still maintained its human form, and the other arm had split into 4 tentacles, with a mouth full of fangs in the middle of the tentacles. The back of the flesh and blood giant was split open like a big mouth, revealing its spine. 30 or 40 flesh and blood tentacles stretched out from it, constantly whipping and destroying the ground. Arsehole. Sukinghan felt that he could no longer hold on. Who would have thought that the survivor, Zizao, would turn into such a monster? Although the flesh and blood giant had no eyes, it had nearly 40 tentacles on its body, which were extremely sensitive to the surrounding sounds, vibrations, and airflows. Sukinghan had no way of escaping its detection. What's more troublesome is that Shadow 2G is following her all the way. As a level 3 blue steel evolver, his speed is only faster than Sukinghan. If he wants to run, he must have left far away. However, if Shadow 2G is hiding around, waiting for Sukinghan to be at her most vulnerable time, and giving her a fatal blow, what can Sukinghan do? Shadow 2G's original talent allowed him to avoid the perception of the flesh and blood giant, but Sukinghan had no way to escape. She even said sadly that there was no other living creature nearby except Sukinghan. If the flesh and blood giant didn't chase her, who else could it chase? Where are those who are chasing me? Sukinghan even had some hope that someone would come to take the blame for her soon, but the people chasing her behind were not stupid. With the flesh and blood giant's body in this state, who would be stupid enough to come over? Arsehole. Sukinghan had been running away for nearly 20 minutes. Even the body of an evolver couldn't hold up after such a long-term full strength burst. However, the flesh and blood giant had no concept of fatigue at all. Its barbed tentacles attacked Sukinghan from all directions, like living poisonous snakes. The ground was plowed open by it again and again, and the trees collapsed in the impact. Snow powder splashed everywhere, like flying smoke and dust. Sukinghan relied on the stimulation of the source power to maintain her highest speed. She kept moving on the ground like a flea, and she was in danger again and again. However, anyone could see that Sukinghan was already in danger. The girl was like a bow that was stretched to the limit, still being pulled away little by little, constantly approaching the critical point of collapse, and at that time, she would be finished. What? Sukinghan thought she could still hold on, but this limit of squeezing potential eventually made her muscles overly tired. At the moment she stepped on the tree trunk, she herself did not expect that she actually stepped on the air. This little error caused the whole world to spin. Sukinghan never thought that she, a black iron level second evolver, would step on the air and fall upside down from the tree. At this moment, it was really terrible. The damage from falling was meaningless, but a little further away, the more than 20 flesh tentacles like iron chains of the bridge were pulling out in an overwhelming manner. So soon. Sukinghan really didn't want to use Winter Poem now. She knew very well that, as long as she used Winter Poem, she would completely embark on the road of death and there would be no turning back. Sukinghan didn't care about her own death, but she wanted her death to have enough meaning. She had died too many times and had no so-called numbness or habit. She had always hated death, but the end was not bad for Sukinghan. She had experienced too much. She didn't care when she would die. She only cared about whether she could defeat Fook, rescue Mu Yingluo, and kill Tang Zujian. When Sukinghan made up her mind to seek Winter Poem, she didn't care about using it, but she just wanted to release it when Fook was fighting, and then leave enough spare energy to kill Tang Zujian. Now it seems everything is just a luxury. In this way, she can only end it all quickly and start over. Gluo, I'm sorry. I have to ask you for help again. Sukinghan slowly closed his eyes in midair, calmed down, felt the close-fitting winter poetry, and prepared to release it. Sukinghan, no need to say sorry. No matter how many times you ask me for help, I will gladly agree. Sukinghan opened his eyes in surprise, and what he saw was Gluo's cheerful little face. He ran over the ground, hugged Sukinghan head on, and then rushed towards the flesh and blood giant head on. Gluo, what do you want to do? Sukinghan was frightened by Gluo's actions, but Gluo did not answer. He just focused on the front, with the star-like color of the source of power flashing in his eyes. This kind of large monster will fall down if it turns around. Although Gluo looked very reckless, this was a solution he had thought of long ago. Since hearing the explosion in the distance, Gluo asked Yujing to take Tang Ruoxi and Zhu Yi away, and he rushed over at full speed alone. Gluo came all the way to face a monster of the size of the flesh and blood giant. Although he was trying to save Sukinghan, he would not rush to his death. Gluo had already thought of a way to get out of this situation. Bang, bang, bang. Ugly tentacles whipped the ground, but Gluo seemed to have known where they would land and dodged in advance. In the end, he actually got close to the feet of the flesh and blood giant. Then, dense tentacles entangled with each other. Gluo threw the incendiary bomb with the fuse, pulled to the ground, and he held Sukinghan and circled around the ankle of the flesh and blood giant. Roar roar roar. Zizao, who had turned into a flesh and blood giant, eventually lost his ability to think. All his responses were reactions without thinking. Therefore, when the blazing flames ignited on his body, the flesh and blood giant went completely crazy. The tentacles rushed towards Gluo as if stimulated, but they were tied up very stupidly. The flesh and blood giant tried to step on Gluo to death, but Sukinghan in Gluo's arms threw another incendiary bomb at it first, and the burning flame slowed its movements again. Hold on tight, we are going to retreat. Gluo hugged Sukinghan tightly, and there was no need for the girl to hold on tight, but after hearing his words, the girl still held on to him reflexively. After a few seconds, Sukinghan reacted, but did not let go. In the wind, filled with the smell of barbecue, Gluo looked ahead with a solemn expression. He walked quickly, but his body was very stable. He looked ahead with his eyes and a serious expression on his cheeks. He didn't notice that the girl was staring at him. He just held her and ran towards the abandoned factory at full speed. Because there was a trap they had set long ago. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224, Travelers. A few days ago, a light snow fell in Changlin City, and the grey and black factory was stained with a layer of white. Everything was silent between the desolate high towers and buildings. Because no one had come for a long time, The factory was already covered with thick dust, but in some hidden places, there were still fresh footprints extending. Outside the factory, the old walls were already dilapidated, and the surrounding houses, to be demolished, were only desolate. But in the distant roar, a huge shock was approaching. Woo-ah. Ah. Ah. The fire on the flesh and blood giant had dissipated, and the charred flesh and blood kept falling off, like living buds growing wantonly, making it speed up again at a slow speed. GLUO, where did you bury the bomb? Sukinghan had already left GLUO's arms at this time. She stopped GLUO's plan to enter the factory immediately and just stood on the roof of a low building, watching the flesh and blood giant gradually approaching. There are more in this outer circle, and the rest are under the big chimney. When GLUO told Sukinghan about his plan today, he asked for all the bombs in her hand, and Tang Ruoxi and Zuyi cooperated to create a big scene in the abandoned factory. GLUO's original plan was to use it to entertain the evolvers who were chasing Sukinghan, but now it seems that no one will be stupid enough to get in. The outer circle is too large, and the firepower is so dispersed, it can't die. Sukinghan actually has no idea about the current state of the survivor Zizao. It is hard to imagine what Zizao's original talent is that can make him look like this. If the mechanism of action is not understood, it will be difficult to eliminate it with conventional methods. Flames are not good, and bombs are even less likely. You know, the burst damage of the flame source power is far beyond the reach of conventional thermal weapons. Sukinghan couldn't even understand Zizao who could survive in that situation. What should we do? Lead it to the chimney? GLUO still knew nothing about the flesh and blood giant. Was this monster a human infected with a G-virus, or was it created by some strange holy relic? GLUO, I doubt that ordinary methods can kill it at all. The best way is to let it be pressed under the ruins. Sukinghan turned his head and looked at the chimney that was like a tall tower. In the end, this was the only way he could think of. Okay, I'll lead her away, and you go adjust the bomb. GLUO handed the remote control of the detonation to Sukinghan, but Sukinghan did not take it, but pushed it to GLUO. You go. It's been staring at me. How can I do this? Do you think I'm someone who can do directional blasting? GLUO had already seized Sukinghan's death return in the previous contact. With this final means, GLUO had room for death, but Sukinghan could not die. Sukinghan, go and deal with it. I can make it stare at me. GLUO showed off by taking out 2 incendiary bombs, but before he could even warm them up, Sukinghan snatched them away. Go ahead. I won't die that easily. Sukinghan certainly understood GLUO's worries, so the girl smiled and flicked GLUO's forehead with her finger. The winter poem is already in my hand. I can deal with it when necessary. Okay. GLUO actually wanted to ask about the origin of this monster, but now the flesh and blood giant was approaching, and there was no time to delay. Sukinghan, be careful. Don't worry, I won't die. Sukinghan looked at GLUO's worried face, and couldn't help but feel warm in her heart. She reached out, and picked off a few pine needles from GLUO's hair, and waved at him. GLUO, see you later. Give me 5 minutes. GLUO looked at Sukinghan deeply, then bent his knees, and jumped directly onto another roof, and then jumped over the factory wall with a few leaps. Really, a good friend. Sukinghan's feelings for GLUO, of course, changed after learning that he was also an evolver. The girl had never expected that GLUO would hide himself so well, and even on the contrary, when they first met, he helped lift the car, which really couldn't stand up to scrutiny. However, this suspicion and entanglement did not mean that Sukinghan really couldn't believe GLUO. What he did for her was irrefutable evidence. He might have the same secret as her, but he didn't choose to cover it up. He was always upright in front of her. In the last few times, when they looked at each other, Sukinghan could even read the urgency and hope in GLUO's eyes. He hoped that she would ask him. He was ready. As long as she asked him, he would tell her everything, reassure her, and let her believe in him and his help. But Sukinghan didn't. She didn't ask GLUO the reason for all this, just as he didn't ask her. Many times, there is an essential difference between choosing to ask first and then believe, or to believe first and then ask. Sukinghan and GLUO didn't know each other for a long time, but she was willing to believe him. Even if she was deceived in the end, she had a way to turn everything around. This is probably the naivety of people who can travel through time and space. After experiencing so many betrayals, what Soo Kyung-hun expected in her heart was still the shining trust. At least now, she is still willing to believe GLUO. So, just leave everything to him. Soo Kyung-hun turned her head and looked at the approaching flesh and blood giant, but a smile suddenly broke out on her face. She, is not alone. At this moment, the survivors Izao, who turned into a flesh and blood giant, finally completely lost the last bit of reason, and the flesh and blood tentacles intertwined all over the sky, began to destroy everywhere, and the most important target was Soo Kyung-hun, whose breath was familiar to it. Please burn. Soo Kyung-hun faced the ugly tentacles that were slashing down at her. She did not advance but retreated, her body like a sharp arrow, dodging the tentacles slashing. At the same time, she twisted her body in midair, and at a certain moment, when she was trying to get close, she threw the incendiary bomb in her hand. Before, Soo Kyung-hun was really frightened by the appearance of the flesh and blood giant. Rather than saying that she could not fight, it was better to say that she was shocked by the opponent's ugliness and disgust. She had been trying to escape, but she didn't think about fighting. Until GLUO's arrival, Soo Kyung-hun saw that, although the flesh and blood giant recovered quickly, it was a carbon-based life after all, and it had its limits. As long as you touch its limits, you can completely destroy it. What a pity, my arsenal is not here. Soo Kyung-hun's figure was like a swift, and she dodged several blows in the air by twisting her body. Then, she landed lightly, picked up a steel bar on the ground, and stabbed it directly into the ankle of the flesh and blood giant. Otherwise, the process of destroying you must be very refreshing. Chapter 225, The Returning Person. Directional blasting, isn't that embarrassing? GLUO doesn't know how to use bombs, nor does Tang Ruoxi or Zhu Yi. The so-called trap set by those two people is to evenly circle around. Where the nearly 100-meter high chimney will fall depends on luck. But now, GLUO needs to use technology to level out his luck. But he doesn't have technology, so what should he do? Let me see what the omnipotent netizens say. GLUO stood under the chimney and didn't know how to adjust the bomb layout at all. He could only take out his mobile phone and wonder if he could see any magic posts. However, GLUO had just unlocked the screen when the sound of footsteps nearby scared GLUO. Who? It's me, GLUO. What are you doing? Tang Ruox's voice was full of energy, much better than GLUO's cautious look. She spread her hands and walked slowly to GLUO's side, all her expressions hidden behind the mask. Tang Ruoxi? Didn't I tell you to leave? GLUO was not surprised to see Tang Ruoxi appear here, but just sighed. He had told her so much, but this girl still didn't listen. She didn't leave with Zhu Yi in Yujing's car, but was still looking for death here. I'm an evolver after all, I can help you. You can't help me, you know directional blasting. GLUO was very annoyed by Tang Ruoxi. Soo Kyung-hun was struggling with her outside, so he didn't have time to chat with Tang Ruoxi. Directional blasting? I definitely can't do it. Tang Ruoxi shrugged her shoulders. She had no idea that she was holding back. Instead, she was very dissatisfied with GLUO's contempt for her. But I can make this big chimney fall in the direction I want. What? You can? GLUO put down his mobile phone, which had lost a few of his own, and looked at Tang Ruoxi in surprise. Are high school students nowadays so powerful that they even know the basics of directional blasting? What's so difficult about this? It's just like chopping down a tree. Leave it to me. Which direction do you want to fall? How can it be the same? Tang Ruoxi, don't mess around. Someone will die. GLUO was really worried about something happening. He was not joking, but Tang Ruoxi was so careless that she gave GLUO a sanitary ball. I'm messing around with you. It will definitely be fine. Don't worry, GLUO. Go help Soo Kyung-hun. Leave this to me. I guarantee it will be done. Then, okay. GLUO nodded half-heartedly, took out the detonator from his pocket, and wanted to teach Tang Ruoxi, but he didn't expect the girl to wave her hand and refuse. You do the detonation, I'll call you when it's done. Okay. GLUO was actually quite conflicted. He wanted to help Soo Kyung-hun, but he also wanted to stay to help Tang Ruoxi. However, the girl was so confident that Gluo had no reason to stay. Come on, don't die. Tang Ruoxi didn't mean to talk to Gluo anymore. She just squatted down and started to sort out the bombs on the ground. Gluo hesitated for a moment, but turned around and ran out. In the shadows, Tang Ruoxi, wearing a mask, looked unclear. She slowly disassembled the bomb connection points, disassembled the wrong lines one by one, and then connected them skillfully. At the same time, Su Qinghan, who was dragging the flesh and blood giant, was also injured for the first time. Fortunately, Su Qinghan quickly pulled away and avoided the subsequent slash. She dodged, but the house she was standing in was miserable, and the roof was directly blown off. It actually has a fighting mind. Su Qinghan covered his injured left arm and quickly crossed the factory wall. The flesh and blood giant chased after him, smashed the wall in front of him with a punch, and walked in fiercely. Then, the dense flesh tentacles began to destroy everywhere, but unlike before, the flesh giant began to deliberately control the rhythm of the tentacles, no longer swarming and knotting attacks. Just like the technique of playing the piano, the tentacles' offensive was continuous and orderly, and they continuously whipped everything that Su Qinghan touched. In this situation, Su Qinghan's actions became more dangerous. She had used up all the incendiary bombs and grenades on her body. Now all she could do was to rely on her ability to deal with it and pray that Gluo would finish as soon as possible. Darn. Because Su Qinghan hid in the building, the flesh giant could not enter the door at all due to his height, so he could only continue to destroy outside the building. And Su Qinghan did not directly avoid and disappear. She kept appearing in the flesh giant's perception, making it uncomfortable, as if it saw a flea. Raw. The flesh giant seemed to be fed up with Su Qinghan's jumping, and was completely enraged by her. It swung its right arm, which had become a right hand with 4 tentacles, and directly peeled off an entire layer of glass in the office building. Then, a black corrosive liquid spurted out from the mouth in the center of the 4 tentacles. This corrosive liquid is much more terrible than the acid of the corpse vine. Even if it touches the ground, it can corrode a big hole in the cement and bricks. Su Qinghan didn't dare to stay any longer when he saw that it was not good, and fled directly from another direction. At this time, Gluo just crawled close and waved at Su Qinghan, signaling her to go over quickly. Su Qinghan thought that Gluo had finished the arrangement, and she was delighted and rushed over immediately. The flesh and blood giant realized belatedly that Su Qinghan had left, but it stopped spitting acid and chased in the direction of Su Qinghan again. Gluo, have you finished the arrangement? Su Qinghan's eyes swept around, and he was already thinking about where to lead the flesh and blood giant to blast the chimney. No, Tang Ruoxi is making arrangements. I'm here to help you. Gluo turned his head and glanced at the flesh and blood giant that was chasing after him. Suddenly, he had a bold idea in his mind, so he gestured to Su Qinghan, signaling her to keep going forward. Gluo? Su Qinghan didn't understand what Gluo wanted to do, but she still followed Gluo's idea and turned to flee into the distance, while Gluo stood there, quietly acting as a wooden stake. A strange thing happened. The flesh and blood giant seemed to be unable to see Gluo and chased Su Qinghan straight away. In a few breaths, he pulled away. Sure enough, Gluo had only suspected it before, but now he finally confirmed that this flesh and blood giant had a very low perception of him. It's not that he couldn't perceive it, but it seemed to ignore it, or it was not easy to detect it. Gluo didn't know why this happened, but this situation couldn't be more perfect. Brother, you can't do this. Gluo was a little regretful. He no longer had incendiary bombs in his hand. In this way, if he wanted to delay its movement, he could only use physical methods. So, a flash of cold light comes first, and then the gun shoots out like a dragon. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.